The fortune teller laid out the cards in front of Lady Baldwin and said that she had never met a person with such great luck. The fortune teller assured the young lady that fortune loves her so much that a simple sigh can bring her mountains of money. The woman showed the young lady cards that indicated that all the riches of the world were flowing to her. The girl laughed and said that she already had a lot of money, and she was doing fine. The laughter was interrupted by the fortune teller, sadly saying that the young lady was in for a complete disappointment in love. The fortune teller suggested that all the luck in amorous affairs had moved to the financial sphere. The lady was indignant that this was impossible because she was already engaged and the marriage was not at all of convenience. She sincerely loved the groom and he loved her. The woman confidently said that the girl's happiness would soon collapse and added that she would not take payment for the session today. Then, smiling mysteriously, she said that if today's prediction came true, the young lady would repay her in full. Returning to the castle, Lady Lily Baldwin thought that the fortune teller's words could not be true and the engagement would not be broken. Lady Lily understood that the words of the fortune teller were haunting, the word shadow. They could only be gotten rid of by seeing Richard's face. Near the castle, the girl saw an unfamiliar carriage, and inside the mansion, servants who resembled madmen were waiting for her. They blocked her way to Richard's chambers and shouted that Lady Lily was not allowed to enter it under any circumstances. When she opened the door, she saw Richard in the same bed next to a naked brunette. When someone entered the chambers, the guy did not turn around, angrily strained through his teeth that he had asked not to let anyone in. He heard someone gasp loudly and then turned around to see Lily in front of him in tears. Richard hastened to explain to her that the bride had misunderstood everything. It was just that his sister's guest had accidentally spilled juice on her dress. The guy moved towards Lady Lily and began to shake his head, adding that because of the spilled drink, the poor thing had to take off her clothes. Richard clung so close to the young lady that he pressed her against the wall and snidely said that although she was a bride, she should not enter unannounced. The guy smiled and concluded that the girl needed to work on her manners because she burst into other people's chambers without knocking. Richard led Lily out into the corridor and asked how she could start behaving appropriately. The girl sobbed from the realization that her fiancé had reprimanded her. This incident confirmed the idea that luck in love had left Lady Lily. Lady Baldwin was born into a family that was famous for its wealth, but with the arrival of Lily, the financial situation of the family became even better. Any business that the Baldwin family started ended in success, and one day they received a huge inheritance from a distant relative. In all competitions, contests, tournaments, she always won. She was so lucky that when little Lily left the house penniless, she found a few gold coins on the sidewalk. Previously, her life was perfect because Richard, the first love, promised to get married, but their relationship was never perfect. For some time, Lady Lily was secretly in love with Richard and considered him her fate, the only love of her life. The girl made a lot of efforts to achieve an engagement, but even then, she did not stop trying to be perfect for Richard. When she learned that he liked kind and open girls, Lilia became sociable. A smile did not leave her face, only Richard did not pay attention to it. The girl hid her character, her hobbies, her real self, and her fiancé took it for granted. Lady Lily believed that one day she would find happiness with her beloved because she had done so much for him, but he betrayed her. She realized that all this time she had endured a bad attitude towards herself and wasted time on her fiancé, a blockhead and a boob. Lady Lily remembered that Richard only came into her life when he needed money. The girl concluded that she would no longer put up with this and decided that the first thing to do was to break off the engagement. Suddenly, the young lady remembered the fortune teller that she had said that she would not take money for the prediction, but if it came true, then Lily would pay her in full. The girl concluded that she needed to go to the bank, then opened her wardrobe and realized that the wardrobe also needed to be updated. All the outfits were selected in accordance with Richard's taste and preferences, but none of the dresses pleased Lilia personally. Lady Lily's room was knocked by the knights, Francis and Malik, who were serving the Baldwin family. The knights vied with each other to say that they were very worried about the lady. They had not seen her for about a month and she had lost so much weight. The girl apologized for making her worry and asked embarrassedly what was wrong with her older brother and parents. Malik said that they were away, and Lady Lily decided that she needed to apologize to them, because of Richard, she did not pay attention to them. The girl announced to the two knights that they would have to go out of the castle with her to solve several cases. On her way, The young lady met the enthusiastic glances of passers-by who admired the beauty of Lady Lily from a well-known exorbitantly rich family. After finishing a walk through several shops, the girl informed Francis and Malik that they needed to look into another place. When the front door to the dark shop creaked, the woman in the robe said that she had not yet opened. Then gold coins fell on the fortune-teller's table from the bag that was on Malik's shoulder throughout his shopping trip. The woman was extremely surprised by this amount of money, and Lady Lily explained that the fortune-teller was right and received a decent payment. Then the girl sat down at the fortune-teller's table and asked to look at her luck in love again. Having made a spread for Lady Lily, the woman noted that it was the first time she saw the fate of a person change so dramatically in 1 month. The fortune-teller added that the cards promised the girl a new love with some young aristocrat of noble origin. Immediately, the girl asked if he would cheat. The fortune-teller replied that the cards could not show this. She added that this love is just another cycle of the mistress's fate. The fortune-teller recommended that the young lady go to the West today so that something good would happen. Lady Lily went to another clothing and accessories boutique, indicated a few things, and said that she did not need them. Then she handed the sellers a check and announced that she was buying everything else in this store. Lady Lilia came out of the store very pleased and concluded that it was very pleasant to buy clothes that she liked. When Lady Baldwin appeared in a new outfit in front of the knights, Francis could not hold back his emotions and complimented her appearance. Malik added that his comrade had a strange sense of taste, and the lady asked the knights if they were tired of standing and waiting. The guys protested and said that it was an honor for them, so Lady Lily asked to wait a little longer while she bought gifts for the family. Suddenly, a saleswoman appeared near Lady Baldwin and asked in a thin voice what to do with the clothes in which the mistress had come. Layla's eyes flashed back to the memory of Richard letting her try on this outfit, claiming that it would suit her best. Lady Lily angrily said to burn these clothes, turned around abruptly and got into the carriage. Choosing a box in the store, Lady Baldwin concluded that there was nothing suitable for a gift among the goods. The girl thought that because of the meeting with Richard, she did not communicate with her family and ignored their warnings about the groom. Lady Baldwin thought it would be a good idea to apologize to her parents and brother with gifts. She looked at the goods in this shop with contempt and realized that they were not worth the price, since they were poorly made. The door of the store opened, and a young guy of pleasant appearance entered. Lady Lily immediately thought in her mind how charming this guy was, only somehow sad and stern. The gentleman said that he wanted to buy something for a gift. The saleswoman offered him a box that Lilia was examining. The saleswoman called the product a high-quality masterpiece and announced the price, which was twice as high as the original. Lady Lily was shocked by such a scam and thought that only a fool would buy such a low-quality product. Suddenly, the young man said that he was buying a box. Then Lady Lily mentally called him a blockhead. The saleswoman was happy with this turn of events and offered the guy another box because it is a trendy product. Then the woman offered the compliant buyer another product because it has been very popular lately. When the saleswoman said that the client was lucky because today these goods are sold at such a price, Lady Lily could not stand it. She snatched the box from the woman's hands and said that a minute ago she had seen a different price tag on the product, and it was half as small. Lady Baldwin thought that perhaps she had intervened sharply and impudently, but this gentleman did not even refuse a single offer. The girl admitted to herself that she recognized herself in this soft guy. He would also be given, and he would cry at night. Unexpectedly, in a loud voice, the saleswoman said that the price was actually set by the owner of the store. The woman standing behind the counter clarified that the product with this quality is quite consistent with the named price. The saleswoman suggested that the indignant young lady was just sorry for the money and asked if she should offer something cheaper. Lady Baldwin listened with an unshakable face to the attempts to tease her with money, then called Francis. After a while, an obese man ran out of an inconspicuous door and hastily handed over the sales contract to the saleswoman. He handed the papers to the woman and said that there was already his signature, only she was needed. Then he knelt before the new owner of this store and thanked her for paying double the price in the transaction. Lady Lily asked the saleswoman that since she was now the owner, she could set prices for goods. The lady said that she wanted to set the original price for the box and advised the woman to wipe the dust and clean up behind the counter. Lady Lily was then approached by the master who had almost bought the overpriced boxes and thanked her for her help. The girl said that she should apologize because she impudently interfered in the dialogue between the guy and the saleswoman. Lilia pointed to the saleswoman running with a bucket and added that such people usually do not stop. The young lady clarified that such people do not miss the opportunity to cheat someone, so they need to be categorically refused. The guy said that this was the problem because he was not used to refusing. Lilia thought that his strict appearance did not mean that he was timid in communication. Apparently, she was wrong to judge the book by the cover. The girl offered him her help in choosing a gift and pointed to one cute box with figures of lovers. Lady Balden was praising the beautiful design and melody of the box when she suddenly noticed that the guy's eyes warmed and brightened. Suddenly, it dawned on the girl that the master was probably choosing a gift for his bride, with whom she had a tender love. As she left the store, Lady Lily instructed the former director to look after the store while she found new employees. Suddenly, the guy stopped her at the door and held out a few gold coins in his palm, noting that this was not enough. The girl looked uncomprehending and asked what it was. The young man explained that it was gratitude for the recommendation. The guy said that he wanted to thank her for recommending the box and for spending a lot of her time. Lady Lily replied that she did not need any gratitude, and she thought that the young man was very good-natured. The young lady clarified that she had not done anything that would require a reward. The guy did not know what he could offer. Lady Lily walked into the carriage, turned around, and told the boy that he was the first person who had tried to repay her with money. The girl explained that she did not need money because she was the daughter of the Balden family. Sitting in the carriage, Lilia remembered the words of the fortune teller that something good could happen today if she went to the west. Of course, this memory made the young lady think about the good events today. Then she caught her breath and mentally told herself that at least the store must make some profit. Lady Lily ordered the cabman to go home, and the boy who had met the young lady in the store remained on the sidewalk in bewilderment. As the carriage approached the castle, Lady Layla stepped out and saw her elder brother, the young master Henry Balden. He had a brilliant mind, the likes of which could not be found in the entire empire, and he was also incredibly caring. In childhood, the older brother replaced the girl's ever-busy parents, took care of her, played with her. Henry was always worried about his sister, even postponing her admission to the academy because Lily was afraid of being alone. Her brother was always with Lady Lily, taking care of her, before she fell in love with Richard. Her brother walked down the stairs asking if Lilia realized how worried her family was. Young Master Henry clarified that his sister then returned home in tears and did not leave her room for a month. Henry noticed a carriage with many packages and boxes of purchases attached to it. The older brother asked if Layla had bought a bunch of things again to please her good-for-nothing fiancé, but she replied that she had bought everything for herself. Lady Lily then apologized to her brother and said that she had been acting like a foolish girl, not listening to anyone and making them worried. Lilia said that during this time she managed to do a lot of terrible things because of her blind love, and looked into her brother's eyes. He had a strained relationship with Richard. From the very beginning, he did not like his sister's fiancé. Once the young master told Lady Layla that she did not like her chosen one because it was clear from him that one day he would break his sister's heart. At that time, she was very offended, disappointed in her family, and left, believing that no one understood her. Now Lilia realized that her brother was always the only person who, in spite of everything, sincerely worried and cared about the girl. Lady Lily smiled at the realization that because she was busy with her lover, she ignored the love of her family and herself. The next day, Henry was talking to his sister in the living room and asked what had happened a month ago. Lady Lily wanted to be honest and frank with her brother, but she couldn't find the words to describe what had happened. She asked me to discuss this topic some other time. My brother knew from his sister's gloomy face that something was wrong. Henry asked if Richard had done anything, and added that he tolerated him only because his sister felt sympathy for him. The guy suggested that Lilia would now begin to defend her fiancé, but the girl answered in the negative. She explained that her brother's words had come true. Richard and Lilia had a serious quarrel. The girl did not want to talk about it right away, since she had not yet made a final decision. Gathering her thoughts, Lily announced that she wanted to break off the engagement. Henry was shocked by his sister's decision. The girl said that there was nothing difficult about it, because the Balden family took care of all the preparations for the wedding. Lilia explained to her brother that she had quarreled with Richard and was sure that she would be unhappy in her marriage if she got married now. She said that she wanted to suspend preparations for the wedding. Henry had nothing against it. My brother said that in this case he would have to ask permission from the Marquis, and he had already risen from the sofa and was about to go. His sister stopped him and said that she wanted to talk to Richard and his parents personally. Then her brother sat down and Lily thought that this was some kind of awkward conversation because she had not communicated with Henry so openly for a long time. The girl remembered that she had prepared something for her brother. When he opened the gift, he saw a box with a cute design. The brother silently opened the box and did not even raise an eyebrow when the figures of the lovers began to whirl to a gentle melody. Lady Lily excused herself, said that she must go as she had business ahead of her, and thanked her brother. When the girl left the room, the guy smiled and, without taking his eyes off the box, whispered to Lily to thank her. As she walked out of the living room, Lily thought that she had been confident during the conversation, but doubted that she would solve all the problems to end the marriage. Currently, Layla's family and Richard's family are business partners, have a joint business, and use engagement as a tool. In addition, society is built on the hierarchy of nobility, and no matter how rich the Count's family is, it is not easy to break off the engagement with a member of the Marquise's family. Moreover, the Crown Princess is the niece of the Marquis of Tercian, and the Marquis is Henry's boss. The Baldwin family is not on the best terms with the Imperial family, so Lelia will probably set up her relatives with her request. Lady Lily realized that in order to break off the engagement safely, she needed to ask for help from someone of higher status. Suddenly, a servant called out to her, said that an invitation to a banquet in the Imperial Palace had arrived, and gave her the envelope. At this moment, the mistress could not believe her happiness that fate had given her such an ideal opportunity. It was pitch dark outside, and Lady Lily, ready for bed, was sitting on her bed with a white box in her hands. She thought of her fiancé and remembered her past hopes that she would come in tears to beg forgiveness, but this did not happen. Lilia could not believe that her former lover had not even written a letter, let alone his own visit. The girl thought that she was grateful to Richard for this unpleasant incident, because she was able to deal with her own thoughts and feelings. Lady Lily put the box on the bedside table and paid attention to the letter. Richard must have received only the same invitation to the Imperial Palace, since the former fiancé loves banquets. He will definitely be there. The girl ran her fingers over the box and thought that now there was a great opportunity to return one thing at once. 4 days later, a banquet was held in the Imperial Castle for all ladies and gentlemen. Lady Lily appeared at the celebration in a deep blue dress, which shocked all the guests present. From all over the hall came the exclamations of ladies and gentlemen admiring the beauty of the young lady. At that moment, Richard came up to Lilia and said that she looked great today. Then he asked the girl if she had always liked such outfits, and Lily thought that he was an unbearably stupid blockhead. The guy said that he hardly recognized his beloved and wanted to take her hand, when suddenly Lilia abruptly pulled away. Richard was indignant and asked what had happened and if she had gone mad, but a grim grimace had already appeared on Lilia's face. The girl angrily exclaimed as soon as she had enough conscience to ask such a question, and added that an apology would not help. Richard said that he thought the girl's anger had already subsided, and added that he had already repeated several times that he had not cheated. The young man suggested that the girl stop discussing this topic because today she somehow reacts violently. Lady Lily replied that Richard had no shame or conscience and promised to leave as soon as she gave one thing. At that moment, the crowd whispered that Evanthion had appeared at the banquet, even though he hadn't been at the events for a long time. Some of the guests noticed that the young master had arrived without an assistant, and some said that they were afraid to come up to say hello. One guest reminded the others that Duke Evanthion's second son was not known for his friendliness, especially since there were bad rumors about him. Rumor has it that Carcon Evanthion deposed his elder brother, the rightful heir, and took his place. Lily couldn't see young Master Carhan's face, then remembered that she was here for someone else. The girl again turned to Richard, who was not at a loss, and greeted his acquaintances present at the banquet. One of the acquaintances turned out to be Mr. Tertian, who apologized to Lady Baldwin because he simply did not recognize her right away. The man admired Lady Lily's appearance and replied that she looked unusual today. Richard noted that his fiancée was a real beauty and hugged her, and Lilia mentally called her ex-fiancé a shameless animal. The girl had a strong desire to leave this celebration because now is not the right time and place for a conversation. Mr. Terzian said that he wanted to take advantage of Lady Baldwin's presence and ask about renting the villa. Richard smiled and said that he would do everything right in the near future and asked to wait a little longer. Lilia could no longer endure this and abruptly broke away from the embrace of her former lover. The girl said that Richard just wanted to use her name and asked why she had to help him. The guy replied that he had already promised them a villa, then Lily smiled mischievously. The girl whispered in her ear that now he could also cope on his own, and then ran to the balcony on the second floor. Taking a sip of champagne from the bottle, Lilia thought that the conversation about breaking off the engagement might never take place. The girl reproached herself for her lack of determination because she could not return his thing. Then Layla had the idea of throwing this thing away, never to associate with any abomination again, like her ex-fiancé. The balcony door creaked, and Lady Layla turned around and saw that master from the store. The girl could not understand why he was there and how he ended up at a banquet in the Imperial Palace. The young man from the store, who could not refuse the saleswoman, was also surprised to meet the lady who helped to choose a gift. The guy admitted that he did not notice that there was someone here because he was in a hurry, asked for forgiveness, and promised that he would leave immediately. The lady stopped the master, assuming that something had happened to him, and added that no bad things would happen if he stayed. The girl had the thought that the guy was incredibly handsome in the sunset, only he had a too angry face. The guy looked quite threatening, as if he was in a bad mood, which made Lily feel uncomfortable. The gentleman apologized for the last time. Then the girl guessed that he was apologizing for giving her money in the store. The young man said that he had made a mistake, because then he did not think that it could upset the girl. She thought that her expectations were justified because the guy turned out to be very honest, but he should not regret that incident. The young man said that he considered it necessary to thank the girl for her help, because good is never free. Lilia replied that it was just a favor. She thought what a difficult life he had if he had never accepted help for free. The master looked at Lady Lily in bewilderment. She replied that she was not his maid or subordinate. The girl explained that she did not need to pay money and reward. The guy said that he would remember it from now on. There was an awkward silence on the balcony for a moment, which Lady Baldwin decided to break by asking what the master was running from. Noticing some embarrassment on the young man's face, the girl suggested not to answer if he did not want to. He explained that one girl wants to get engaged, so she pursues her, and the young man feels out of place because of this. Lady Lily sighed sadly and said that such circumstances sounded discouraging. The guy complained that as soon as he did not get in touch with this lady, she showed up at his home, not paying attention to the time of day. If the master is not told where he is going, she follows him in disguise and gets angry if he is in the presence of other people. The young man told how he recently went to visit his family, but she began to delve into all affairs like a wife. The gentleman clarified that all requests to stop are ignored, so he is afraid that sooner or later everything will get worse. Lady Lily noted that stalking is serious and invited the guy to share his experiences with his family. In response, he only sighed sadly, and the girl also shared her problems with her fiancé to keep the conversation going. Lily explained that her lover had betrayed her and thought that she would like to open this door and shout to Richard about the end of the engagement. The girl concluded that she did not have enough status for this. The end of the phrase was drowned out by the sound of the door opening. It was that pursuer. She grabbed the guy by the arm and shouted that he had to tell him that he was coming here. The stalker shouted that she began to get terribly worried when the master disappeared. Suddenly, she called the guy she was chasing by name. Lady Lily could not believe her ears that the very master who had chosen the box was Avantheon, the demon of war. The pursuer continued to shout at the guy and make claims to him, then pointed at Lady Lily. She asked who the woman was, but Mr. Avantheon was silent and could not think of an answer. The pursuer took a closer look and said that she recognized the stranger as Lady Baldwin. Lilia could not boast of the same, because no matter how hard she tried, she did not recognize her pursuer. When the stalker grabbed Avantheon's arm and shouted that she would not give it to anyone, Lily realized that she had to run away from here as soon as possible. Lady Lily mentally concluded that getting involved in such a provocative situation would not do any good. The girl smiled sweetly and said that it was time for her to return to the hall, but the pursuer blocked the way. She asked if the lady was going to leave quietly after flirting with someone else's fiancé. The dark-haired girl introduced herself as Carcon's fiancé, Stella Delot. Lady Baldwin remembered that the Non family had long been in hostile relations with the Delot family. The incident with the design of the carriage is the most memorable of all the unpleasant situations associated with Delot. Lilia recalled that a few years ago her family launched luxury carriages for sale, but the design was stolen. It was necessary to quickly develop a new design. There were many disagreements, but the final choice was up to little Lily. Thanks to the trust of the parents, it became possible to implement the ideas of their daughter. At the same time, Delata presented his crew with a design stolen from Baldwin, but the newspapers wrote that they had been working on it for several years. Lilia remembered that after the presentation of the carriage with the stolen design, the Baldwin family's idea of selling carriages collapsed. Stella was the only daughter of the Delot family, but recently she has changed a lot. She has lost a lot of weight. Lady Lily thought that she had always avoided political arguments because they were boring, but not when it came to her enemy. Stella irritably asked Layla what she was doing on the terrace, but Lady Baldwin replied that she did not understand what she was talking about. The dark-haired girl began to shout that Lily was in the same space with a man who belonged to Stella. She said she knew the tricks Lily used, and Lady Baldwin was worth why the dark-haired girl was so unsure of herself. Lilia added that if Stella had been confident in herself, she would not have suspected everyone around her without reason. The dark-haired girl was struck by Lady Baldwin's impudence, and she clarified that Stella broke into someone else's resting place without evidence. Lilia remembered how a month ago she caught her fiancé cheating, and snidely clarified that Stella did not catch them kissing, but already suspects. Lily laughed, sarcastically calling Stella the bride and adding that almost nothing was known about her engagement. Lady Baldwin asked why Lady Delot was so worried and suggested that she simply didn't trust Evantheon. Lily said that in that case she could understand why Stella had burst in so suddenly. The dark-haired girl glanced sideways at Evantheon and began to babble that this was not so, that Lily was just exaggerating. Lady Stella looked into Karhan's cruel face and asked if he was angry with her. Lady Baldwin periodically added fuel to the fire, saying that it did not seem that the bride trusted her groom. Then the dark-haired girl fell to her knees in front of her lover and shouted that she would leave first, and she was very ashamed. Lady Stella shouted that it was absolutely not because she did not trust the young master and ran away. When the dark-haired girl disappeared from sight, the young man looked at Lady Lily in surprise. With a straight face, she asked if the young master had expected her to stand silently when she was provoked into an argument. Karkan noted that Milady behaves very confidently and added that she is jealous. The girl at first thought that this was sarcasm. She could not believe that the sole heir of Evantheon, known among the upper classes of the nobility, was jealous of the count's daughter. On the contrary, the person who should be more in himself than anyone else is Karkan Evantheon. The guy clarified that this is definitely not enough, because he himself understands that he will not make a worthy heir. Karkan explained that he was aware of what was being said behind his back, that he was cruel and ruthless, that he was able to destroy his brother and become the heir. Lilia was surprised by what was said, because when she first met the guy in the store, she had a positive opinion. Her opinion differed from the rumors. Karkan seemed to be a well-mannered person who did not even hint at his high status. During the girls' quarrel on the terrace, he resembled a cute little teddy bear that was stuck between two giants. Lily lowered her eyes sadly, for she thought that, unlike the young master, she was making a mistaken impression. Suddenly, the guy asked if his girlfriend was afraid. She asked in an ununderstanding tone to clarify why she should be afraid. Karkan began to explain that other people thought he was bad. Lilia interrupted and said that it did not matter at all what others thought. Looking at the young master, the girl thought that no matter how stern he looked, she had been able to read his face in that time. Lady Lily turned to the young man and asked if she had correctly guessed that he had not been angry before, but was just excited. Karkan was amazed at such insight. Lilia apologized and added that she had a good sense for such things. The guy admitted that she was the first person who immediately correctly understood his feelings. The young man nervously fingered and explained that he was used to misunderstandings because he spoke little and rarely kept up a conversation. He assumed that the reason was that his face was quite terrible. At this moment, Lily was almost speechless from shock. She thought that if his face was considered terrible, then there would not be a single person left in the empire whose face could be shown. The girl asked why he thought so, and joked to herself that because of the perfect face, the guy was probably confused with a mannequin. The guy replied that people freeze when they see his face, and suggested that this is because of negative rumors. Lilia tried to help him, suggesting that he smile more often so that his face softened. Karkan tried to smile, and Lilia concluded that the situation was really deplorable. The girl thought that the guy did not need to change because he was of high status, but if people knew his real one, they could underestimate him. Lady Lily looked at the serious guy and thought that keeping his appearance might be beneficial. The girl regretfully concluded that even if the rumors were true, no one would tell him about it because of his social status. Having mentioned social status in her speech, a brilliant idea came to her mind on how to dispel the rumors because of which the guy is afraid. Lily approached the guy and said that she would help him, and in return he should make a deal with her. The girl said that by uniting, they would be able to break off the engagements that aggravated them. The young man did not understand what kind of deal Milady was talking about. She said that she wanted to get rid of her fiancé. Lilia suggested that Richard also did not want to tie the knot with this stalker. The girl said that she had known Stella Delata for a long time, so she could safely say that her obsession would only intensify. She clarified that after the wedding, the crazy stalker would even watch how the young master breathed. The guy did not like the girl's words very much, but he tried to resist and said that everything was not so simple. Lady Lily said that she did not expect an answer right away and would give the guy time to think about it at his leisure. Leaving the terrace, the girl offered to meet in 3 days at 2 o'clock in the central clock tower on Rydson Street. When Lady Lily returned to the hall, she was surrounded by Francis and Malik and vied with each other to ask how everything had gone. The lady replied that the celebration was going well, but there were some problems, and looked at Richard with a menacing look. Francis asked what dared to interfere with the rest of his beautiful mistress, but Malik stopped him, saying that there was no need to arrange a showdown here. Lady Baldwin said that everything was fine, and there was no need to worry. She added contentedly that she had already taken care of her revenge. Then she looked at her ex-fiancé, laughing and talking to acquaintances, and smiled mischievously. The next day, Lady Lily woke up with a terrible headache and thought that she would never drink alcohol again. Thoughts of a terrible hangover were disturbed by the knocking of a maid, who said that Mr. Henry had ordered something to be handed over. She brought a tray with a bowl of puree soup into the room, and Lady Lily was very surprised by such an act of her elder brother. It seemed to her that there would be some awkwardness between them after their conversation, but Henry forgave his sister and continues to take care of her. The lady asked the maid to convey her words of gratitude to her brother and added that she had enjoyed the food very much. The girl thought that apologizing to her brother was a good idea and suggested that she could get along with him as before. Then she mentally concluded that for the sake of her family, she would find a way to end the engagement peacefully. For this, she needed the status of Mr. Evanthion. If Lily uses Carcon as a shield, then even Richard will not dare to oppose Evanthion. In exchange for status, the Baldwin family will provide such wealth that the Delotte family could not even dream of. The girl thought that it was quite an equal exchange, so there was no need to feel guilty before the Delottes. Lilia stretched contentedly and thought that first she needed to get Carcon's consent, although making a deal on such terms is like winning the lottery. 3 days later, at the appointed time, a beautiful carriage stopped near the clock tower. Lady Lily sat in it, thinking to herself that there was about an hour left before the meeting, which meant that she would have time to deal with all her affairs nearby. In the carriage window, among the many people in the square, Lilia noticed a familiar figure. It was Mr. Carcon Evanthion. The girl at first thought that it was her imagination, because usually nobles come later than the appointed time. Lady Baldwin thought that the young master was an incredibly cautious person, and asked the carriage to stop to get out. As she got out of the carriage, Lilia sadly concluded that she would have to postpone her business. Suddenly, one of the passers-by accidentally missed a bag of apples. They scattered all over the square. One of the apples rolled to Mr. Evanthion's feet. He picked it up and handed it to the old man who was picking the fruit back into the bag. The old man was happy at first, then he cried out sharply and fell to his knees, begging him not to touch the fruit, because this is today's food of his family. People in the square began to whisper and discuss what was happening. It seemed to them that a high-ranking nobleman was taking food from the old man. They were amazed that this master had no pity or compassion at all, and besides, he looked very ferocious. Among the crowd was Lady Lily, who had seen the master's calm reaction to the public misunderstanding. The girl concluded that this does not mean at all that the guy does not care about it, and he is absolutely reconciled. When the old man with the apples hastily retreated, Lilia came up to Carcon and asked why he had come so early. The young man replied that just in case, and Lilia smiled from the understanding that the guy seeks to help people. Even knowing that he will not be so understood, he still continues to help others, which means that he does not flaunt power like other nobles. Lilia realized that Carcon was a good person by nature, and wondered how he had managed to hide his essence for so long. The girl lied that she had come so early because she had business nearby, but they were unexpectedly cancelled. Lady Baldwin suggested that it would not be very convenient to talk here, and suggested that we move to another place. Young Master Carhan was surprised by Lady Layla's suggestion, but he did not contradict him. Lilia and Richard went into a cozy cafe and sat down at a table. The waiter came up to them. He asked what the young people would order. Karkan had no idea what to choose from the menu, so he let Lilia order. When the girl asked for 2 milk teas, the waiter bowed out, and the young master noted how quiet the cafe was. Lady Lily explained that the order was not to let anyone in. The guy assumed that she had rented this place. The girl replied that 2 days ago, she bought this cafe, as well as several establishments nearby, so this place will become their base. Lady Lily wondered why Mr. Karkan was unattended. The guy hesitated and replied that he had urgent business. The young man replied that he did not need an escort because strangers were afraid to go to him and recalled the incident with apples. When the waiter put the ordered tea on the table, Lilia decided to go to the heart of this conversation and recalled her proposal. 3 days ago, Lilia offered the guy to make a deal, although he is less interested in it because his engagement is only being discussed. A second later, the guy said that in fact, he was there to inform the girl about his refusal. He explained in a sad voice that he would not be able to break off the engagement of his own free will, so he was forced to abandon the deal. The girl was shocked by the guy's words, but although he said a refusal, his expression said otherwise. Lilia asked if the guy really had no intention of breaking off the engagement. He replied that his family was currently negotiating on the matter, and they did not want to cause problems. Lilia clarified in a serious voice that she was interested in the young master's own opinion and not in extraneous reasons. His eyes widened in surprise that someone would ask for his personal opinion. The girl explained that this was Mr. Karhan's engagement, so it was logical that she wanted to know his opinion. She said that she would not insist on a deal if it was a guy's decision, then clarified whether he really wanted to get engaged. The young man didn't answer, then Lady Lily dared to suggest that he was putting up with something he didn't like. Karhan bowed his head and said that he doubted he would be able to make a decision on his own. Lilia added sugar to her tea and asked what the problem was. Karhan replied that he just didn't have the courage. The girl said that until recently she was also like that and could not make any decision. She always followed the opinion of others. Lilia admitted that she no longer wanted to live like this because she felt unhappy then. Karkan protested and asked what the others would say. The girl replied that they could criticize or point fingers. Lady Lily took a sip of her tea and added that there was nothing to be done about public opinion, but no one would live her life for her. The girl assumed that the guy was afraid. Her eyes lit up with excitement. She offered to say that she had fooled Mr. Karkan. Lady Lily assured the young master that if anything went wrong, she would take responsibility. Karkan looked at the sweetly smiling interlocutor and said that she seemed to be an amazing person whom you want to trust. The young man said that he wanted to change with the help of the girl and added that he no longer wanted to deceive himself. Mr. Avanthion said in a serious tone that he agreed to Lady Balden's proposal. The girl said that she was extremely glad that the guy made a decision on his own, having thought everything over well, then handed him the contract. According to it, during the agreed period, they will portray fake lovers and cannot have a love relationship. Lilia said that she could adjust the transaction agreement if the young man had any comments. While he was silent, she decided to summarize the contents of the contract and said that they would be playing lovers. Lilia added that in the beginning there will be negative rumors, but over time they will disappear. Karkan said that he has only one question. He asked why everything should look this way. The girl replied that love is a good reason for breaking off the engagement. The girl gave the example of her engagement, which is difficult to dissolve because the groom has a higher position than her. He has a connection with the emperor, so if you act without much care, you can bring problems to your family. That is why Lady Lily wants to use Master Karkan and his position as a shield. Richard Turson is weak in front of someone stronger, so Lilia Balden needs a member of the Avanthion family to become her partner. Richard's supporters will be careful with Lilia and will not be able to immediately take radical measures against the family of Mr. Karkan. Lilia then reminded them that the ducal family also wanted their heir to get engaged as soon as possible. The girl said she was a better fit than Stella Delata. Lily thought to herself that at first the Duke's family might be reluctant, but in the end, they would recognize her. At least compared to Stella, Lily doesn't have so many flaws. Karkan asked if they would always pretend to be lovers. The girl answered in the negative and pointed to a line in the contract. It was indicated that the deal was valid for 1 year. The girl added that during this time she would have time to prepare countermeasures. The guy asked what would happen if he tried to break the contract. The girl jokingly replied that he would find out when he tried. Young Master Karkan smiled back and said that he would sign this contract. The guy carefully drew the initials and signature on the paper, and the girl noted that extraneous conversations could arise in society. Lilia explained that the couple cannot suddenly become lovers, so you need to tell that they fell in love at first sight. She solemnly said that from that moment on, they played the role of a couple in love, where Karkan was responsible for status, and she for wealth. The young master sighed feignedly and smirked, and said that he would do his best. The duke's son and the count's daughter rejoiced at the conclusion of the contract, not knowing that their false relationship would thunder throughout the empire. The girl could breathe a sigh of relief because the contract was signed, but she looked at the interlocutor, admiring the delicious tea. Her heart skipped a beat at the thought that once people knew what a gentle character Karhan had, they would begin to underestimate him. In society, the guy was not understood. Lilia had the opportunity to use him as a shield, but her conscience did not allow her to do so. Lilia said that since the master had signed the contract, she wanted to help solve problems with misunderstandings due to appearance. Karkan was insanely surprised that Lilia remembered what he had said earlier. She replied that she could not forget because she promised. In her mind, Lady Baldin thought that she would take care of those who approached Avantheon with impure intentions. The girl suggested that the guy go shopping and buy new clothes to change his style, then it would be easier for people to approach him. Karkan agreed. They went out of the cafe to the square where there were many shops. Lilia asked if he had any preferences. The young master replied that he did not, and the girl smiled and assumed that my lord had all his clothes in his wardrobe. Karkan was surprised, and Lilia thought that it was not difficult to guess this, because she had only met him in this color. Lady Baldin reminded the duke's son that there was a clause in their contract about the image of a couple in love, and asked him to go with her. Kahart was taken aback, but still approached the girl. Suddenly a man's voice was heard addressing Lily. Lady Baldin turned around and saw her ex-fiancé being embraced by a brunette. Richard was confused and then pulled away from the dark-haired girl and chased her away, pretending not to know her. The former lover turned to Lilia with a request to talk. She was mentally indignant why this meeting took place today. The girl's face was distorted from the memory of the last meeting with her ex-fiancé. He chattered that he would make amends by making a gift. Richard asked not to think anything bad, explaining that he did not know what women love, and turned to this stranger for help. Lilia laughed in her mind and thought, what kind of gift could they be talking about if they were among the shops with men's clothing? The girl told her ex that they had been together for 5 years. He did not remember her tastes and asked for help from a girl she did not even know. Lady Lily concluded that she had a superficial relationship with Richard and asked him not to strain himself so much again. She explained that all words would sound like empty excuses. An angry grimace came over the face of her former lover. He pointed to Lilia Karkan standing next to her and was indignant that she herself was good and was walking with some guy. Then the girl turned on the actress and said that it was an incredible coincidence because she just wanted to tell Richard something. Lily hugged Karhan Avantheon and introduced him as the man she loves. Richard couldn't believe it, because this guy can kill without batting an eyelid if he is offended. He is known as a killer on the battlefield. At the banquet, Richard was afraid to stare at Mr. Avantheon for more than 3 seconds, because according to rumors, he would slit his throat. Lilia's ex-fiancé could not understand how she managed to meet the ruthless heir of the Avantheon family at all. The girl happily reported that the young people met at a banquet and fell in love at first sight. Lilia assumed that it was fate. Lilia asked if it was so. Karkan confirmed her words, and the lovers exchanged long and tender looks. Richard did not believe that his former lover was telling the truth. She replied that she was not lying, and added that she had clearly bored her fiancé lately. Richard felt that this was a lie because Lily could not love anyone else but him, especially a man known as an assassin on the battlefield. Richard mentally told his ex-lover that she used to smile like a fool when she looked at him. He knew that he liked him so much that he could ask her for anything. At the memory of this, Richard was very angry and thought that he would never give Lilia to another guy just like that. Suddenly, Lady Lily said that there was one thing she had to say at the banquet and asked to break off the engagement. Lady Baldin said that she would send a letter with demands as soon as it was ready, then abruptly turned around to leave. Richard was furious and chased after Lily as she left, asking how she could do this to him. The enraged ex-fiancé was stopped by the hand of Mr. Karkan. At his stern gaze, Richard's legs buckled. He fell to his knees. Lady Lily intervened in the situation, who told her lover that it was not worth messing with this scum. She said that she was perfectly fine and invited the guy to go further with her. While Karkan and Lilia were walking down the street, the guy trailed behind the girl. This made her a little angry. She turned around abruptly and asked if the master had forgotten again that it was necessary to walk next to her. The girl said that she did not expect to meet Richard and asked if Mr. Avanthion was very worried about this. He replied that he had acted instinctively and did not realize how he was moving because Richard reached out to Milady. The girl thanked my lord for his help, then smirked and added that he would do well to practice. Mr. Carcon asked if everything was really so bad. Lilia replied that it was very good for the first time. Richard even fell for it. The girl looked at the young master and thought that Richard's appearance was quite unexpected for him. From the moment Lilia's former lover met on the way, Mr. Avanthion seemed to break inside. Fortunately, the stern expression on her face hid everything, but at this rate, it was only a matter of time before they were caught cheating. Lady Balden wondered how the young man had managed to hide his true character until now. Stunned with anger, Richard needed to pour out his grief with strong alcohol. He sat at the bar and called Lilia a who brazenly deceived him because she could not love anyone else but him. Staggering from the whiskey he drank, the guy continued to walk the streets and repeat to himself that he was the only savior for Lilia. Richard thought that he was the heir to the noble family of the Marquis of Tercian, and that his father held a high position in the imperial palace. And the palace itself had long become akin to a sandbox for him, but one ordinary day his life changed. He saw a girl in the garden who had fainted and called for help from a doctor. The next day the stranger met Richard in person. She turned out to be the younger sister of the Balden family of counts. The guy could not understand why she had come. Richard wondered if she had come with gratitude or with an offer to keep in touch after the incident. He glanced at the guest and realized that she was not to his taste. The girl waved her hand to call the knight who accompanied her. He placed a tray on the table with many caskets. Lady Balden said it was a reward for saving her life. When Richard opened them, he saw a lot of precious jewelry with golden stones. The guy was dumbfounded by what he saw, pointed to one of the boxes and asked if it was a necklace that costs as much as 3 magazines. Having received a positive response, Richard noted that the Balden family was able to reward him so much for calling the doctor to their daughter. The young man concluded that he had to get a generous girl from such a rich family. From that moment on, the search for information to win the heart of Lilia Balden began. Richard pretended to meet her by chance. He pretended that the tastes coincided with the preferences of the girl, and now, after a few months of effort, Richard achieved his goal. Lilia finally admitted that she and her boyfriend have a lot in common, and they get along well with each other. The guy managed to deceive an innocent girl, and they became a couple and then got engaged and were one step away from the wedding. But being young and rich, he could not just devote himself to the only girl for the rest of his life. Realizing this, Richard began to lead a nightlife, enjoying visiting bars, taverns, restaurants, and the red light street. The money that Lady Lily gave to her fiancé was enough to relax, entertain, and win the favor of various women. Among this flower garden, the guy even managed to find a permanent partner who fully corresponded to his tastes. But one incident ruined all the fun. The good-for-nothing groom realized that he was to blame for this situation, but tried to hush everything up as soon as possible. The best way out of this unpleasant situation was to blame the bride. Perhaps she became sad and offended. The guy knew that Lady Balden loved him so much that he could not live without Mr. Richard, so there was no reason to worry. But things turned out very differently when she hugged another guy and declared that this was the person she loved. Richard was drinking and languishing from the hopelessness of this situation. Suddenly, he thought that perhaps he would be able to win Lily's favor again. The guy looked at the girls sitting at the next table and thought that it was necessary to arouse jealousy. Suddenly, Richard realized that Lilia was trying to make him jealous by showing a happy look with another guy. Richard smirked because Lilia had a good idea to provoke her fiancé. Then his task was to console her accordingly. At the same time, Lady Balden was returning to her parents' castle, accompanied by knights. Frances asked if the mistress was okay. She realized that the guy was getting towards something and asked what exactly he meant. The knight said that he had wanted to ask from the box shop if Lady Balden thought that Mr. Avanthion was a dangerous man. The girl replied that she didn't think the young master had made such a bad impression and added that she had already made up her mind. Lady Lily asked the knight not to worry at all, for he had neutralized and chased Richard away even better than she had expected. Tearing off the entrance doors to the castle, the girl informed Frances and Malik that everything that had happened today should be kept secret. On the main staircase, Lady Balden saw her parents, Count Cliff, with tears welling up in her eyes, and Countess Violetta. A moment later, Count Balden ran down the stairs and shouted that he was glad to see his daughter because he had not had time to see her before she left. The man ran up, was indignant at how the girl had lost weight, then asked why she had not left the room for a month. The Count still did not calm down, hugged his daughter, examined her, patted her cheeks and asked if she ate enough, what and how much. The interrogation was interrupted by the Count's wife, who invited Lilia and the Count to go into the living room to talk. Entering the living room, the girl whispered to her father to sit next to her. Violetta Balden asked what had happened between Lily and Richard. The woman sternly said that the wedding was coming soon, and it was unacceptable for the bride to lock herself in the room because of a small quarrel. The Countess said that it was okay to make a scene once or twice, but to start a conflict again was too much. She asked the girl what she was thinking about, and Lilia thought about whether she should admit now that her fiancé was having an affair. The girl sadly concluded that she could not do it yet, because if her family found out, they would want to meet Richard. Lady Lilia has just made a pact with Mr. Avanthion, and now she cannot stand up to the Tertian family without preparation. The girl loudly announced that she wanted to talk in the presence of the whole family, including her older brother. Then she turned to her mother and father and sincerely apologized for creating problems for them with her scenes and tantrums. Lady Lily thought that she would have to apologize to her parents more than once and shouted that she demanded a break in the engagement. The parents were shocked by what she heard, but their daughter added that it was not just a whim, but a necessity. The Countess smiled and asked if Lily was really all right now, if the things Henry was telling were true. The girl was embarrassed, but replied that everything was fine, she just fell in love with another person. The Count and Countess rounded their words over the news, and then turned away to exchange indignation. They came to the conclusion that it was necessary to allow their daughter to speak out, and restrainedly asked who her chosen one was now. After a moment's silence, Lady Lily decided to recite the name of young Master Karhan Avanthion. Hearing this name, the parents turned white with horror. Then Count Balden's heart ached sharply. Meanwhile, the Duke's son appeared in his family's castle. With his new appearance, he frightened even the servants. The young master sneaked to the mirror to admire the new image. The guy concluded that the appearance had indeed become more pleasant. Karkan recalled that Lilia asked to come to the next meeting in these clothes, and she also mentioned facial expression training. The young master tried to smile broadly, but the mirror cracked. The guy concluded that the plaster statue would do better. Karkan recalled a moment from his childhood when he tried to smile, but she shouted that he should never do it. Once his bird died from something, the boy came to complain to his mother, but she shouted that she did not want to see him. The Duke's son decided not to plunge into sad memories and concluded that he wanted to be just like Lady Balden. But one must think at first she behaved strangely, came to him first and offered free help. She was upset when he paid her money and then offered to make a deal, showing her a new opportunity in life. Previously, the Duke's son thought that his opinion did not matter. The right offense was to follow the expectations of other people. Deep in his heart, an inexplicable disappointment was brewing. The guy didn't know if he would go with the flow or wander aimlessly. It was at this confusing moment that a snow-white hand was extended to him. Within the young master, a desire awoke to change and become like Lady Lily. Thesion Hervin entered Mr. Karhan's room and apologized for his long absence. Suddenly, the dark-haired boy's eyes widened sharply, for he saw a new image of my lord. Mr. Karhan panicked, then asked if his clothes looked ridiculous and stupid. Thesion protested. He recalled that he had previously agreed with the Duke's son that the young master would wear only black clothes. Thesion explained that this is how you can maintain the intimidating image of an unavailable person in order to scare away all ill-wishers. The guy claimed that these people would take advantage of the master if they found out about his good character. Thesion rhetorically asked if Karkan had worn such a costume at the banquet and drew attention to the document with the seal. As he read, the dark-haired guy's indignation grew. He said that while he was away, the young master had been fooled. The green-eyed guy asked what the words on this paper about helping each other break off the engagement meant. Mr. Karhan mentally apologized to Lady Balden for not being able to keep their deal a secret. The Duke's son began to explain the essence of the contract to him, but when Thesion heard about the contractual relationship, he cried out loudly. He shouted, "How dare Karkan make such an important decision during his absence?" The young master replied that he had decided to do so at his own discretion, since he had his own head on his shoulders. The Duke's son explained to Thesion that the will of another person was not a mistake, but his personal decision. The dark-haired guy finally came to his senses and asked in a calm tone when Mr. Karkan would meet with Lady Balden. My lord replied that in 4 days, the dark-haired lad said that he would also go to this meeting to make sure that milady was trustworthy. Carcon remembered how he said goodbye to Lilia after gatherings in a tea cafe and shopping with men's clothes. They didn't agree to meet again and work on their natural behavior because they were lucky that Richard believed. To make everything realistic in the future, you need to communicate and get to know each other better. On the appointed day, Lilia was preparing for the meeting and thought how lucky she was to meet a dummy partner. But the next step is quite problematic, because according to the laws of the Empire, the consent of both parties is required to terminate the engagement. As a last resort, you can go to court, but then the case will be very delayed, and I would like to finish it as soon as possible. Lily sighed in puzzlement, because she did not know how to get Richard's consent. Suddenly, Malik knocked on the door of Lady Lily's chambers and said that he had brought a letter from the Imperial House, which concerns a tea cafe. The girl ran her eyes over the lines and concluded that the place of meeting with Mr. Carcon would have to be changed. She asked the knight to send someone to the ducal castle and give the news of the change of venue. At the agreed time, Mr. Carcon and Tishan arrived at the new place that Lilia had announced. The girl greeted them, but noticing an unfamiliar face next to the young master, she asked who it was and if he could be trusted. The Duke's son explained to Lady Baldwin that this guy was his assistant and he trusted him completely. Mr. Avanthion apologized and sadly said that due to his negligence, the terms of the contract were violated. The girl glanced at the young master's assistant and realized that he was treating her with contempt and wariness. Milady said that everything was fine then, and pointed to the escorts, adding that they also knew about everything. Lady Baldwin introduced herself and held out her hand to her new acquaintance, who told her his name and extended his hand for a handshake. Seeing this scene, everyone present was simply dumbfounded with shock as Tishan casually scanned the meeting room. There were old furniture with simple designs and wooden boxes all around. Tishan shouted that it was disrespectful to them. Mr. Carcon tried to calm his assistant. Lady Lily only smiled and apologized for the unexpected change of seat. The girl explained that before the meeting, a letter came from the Imperial Palace, which said that the cafe was to be reconstructed. Lilia explained that the entrance to the territory of the tea cafe was prohibited, but a huge amount of money was paid as compensation. Tercian was extremely surprised by this, and Lady Lily explained that there would be more such situations in the future because she was very lucky. Milady invited the guests to sit down, explaining that the place had been chosen in a hurry and there were not even treats. The lady turned to Francis, who was seething with anger, and asked him to bring something to drink. Lady Lily suggested that he get to the point, but was interrupted by Carcon's assistant and told him he had something to say. Clearing his throat, the dark-haired guy demanded to break the contract because Lord Carcon does not like to get involved in problematic affairs. Thesion said that he did not know the true intentions of the mistress and asked if she could not interfere with Lord Carcon in her affairs. The girl had a thought that the guy with green eyes looked more like a guardian than an assistant. The girl asked if the young master was really afraid to associate with other people. Milady said that as an assistant, a guy should know what rumors were circulating around his master. Lady Lily sternly asked if the request to break the pact was Mr. Avanthion's personal wish or if it came from Thesion. She thought she would understand if the assistant had made a remark on the contractual terms. The girl even understood if the guy asked the lord if he really wanted to participate in this suspicious business. However, he fears that the true nature of Mr. Avanthion will become obvious to those around him. Thesion uses rumors as a shield to build a wall between his master and those around him. Avoiding contact with other people will inevitably lead to isolation, which may seem like a good option. Lily thought it would be convenient now and asked loudly if his master really wanted to be alone for life. Lady Lily told me that the rumors and gossip would get worse, but the culprit would never deny anything, as he did now. The dark-haired lad felt like he was protecting Lord Carcon, a man he had met on the battlefield. He was someone who easily endured losses, and even in harsh conditions tried to take care of others. There was a moment when Thesion was left in the middle of the battlefield with a broken leg and thought no more. The enemy raised his sword over the wounded man to kill, but the Duke's son parried the blow. He was the only person who, risking his life, saved the life of a guy with green eyes. Therefore, when Lord Carcon became the Duke's heir, Thesion thought that all possible dangers for him should be stopped in advance. Suddenly, the young master touched the dark-haired boy's shoulder and thanked him for his concern. He announced that he had relied on an assistant for too long. From now on, he would make decisions on his own. Tears welled up in the assistant's eyes, and Master apologized if he was a bad boss and said that he was trying to change. Tseon couldn't hold back his emotions, burst into tears, and admitted that he was wrong, and everything he had done so far had been just for him. Francis happily announced that he had finally returned, but seeing the sad faces, he asked Malik what had happened. He explained to his comrade that their mistress had betrayed another person, and Tseon bowed respectfully to Lady Lily. She concluded that now it was definitely possible to move on to the main topic of this meeting. Thanks to Francis, the table at which Lady Lily and Mr. Carhan were talking was full of drinks and snacks. The girl offered to talk, leisurely drinking something, then the young man reached for a mug of tea. Lady Lily offered sugar and milk, adding that last time she thought he liked milk tea. Tseon interrupted the conversation and indignantly said that his master did not like sweets at all. Lilia was very surprised, because with her own eyes in the cafe, she saw how Karkan enjoyed tea, looked at it and said that it was delicious. The girl said that was why she assumed that the young master liked sweets. The Duke's son timidly said that he loved sweets, which shocked Tseon. He indignantly asked since when his lord's taste preferences had changed. The young master replied that it was actually simple. No one had offered him anything like this before. Karkan's assistant shouted that this was unbelievable since he had served the master for many years, but it turned out that he did not know his tastes. Tseon asked Lady Baldin how she had found out, and she replied that it was all written on Mr. Avanthion's face. The dark-haired guy looked carefully at his master's emotionless face and asked Milady if she was joking. Instead of answering, Lady Lily laughed and said that since they were now on the same side, it was logical to tell more about the contract. Lady Lily said that she and Mr. Avanthion had agreed to be lovers for a while and to break off their engagement. Under the terms of the contract, as soon as everything is done, the fake lovers will part honestly. Milady added that she had agreed to help Lord Karkan avoid misunderstandings that occur due to appearances. The young man concluded that he had misunderstood everything and mistakenly despised Milady at first, because many people approached the Lord with impure intentions. The girl said that she understood everything and was not offended, then added that today's meeting was in order to communicate. Milady added that this would help them play lovers more realistically. Then she asked Mr. Carhan if he had been in a relationship before. He replied embarrassedly that it never was. Tseon, Francis, and Malik turned red like tomatoes. From their reaction, Lady Baldin realized that no one in the room except herself had a relationship. The girl regretfully concluded that the acting skills of the master are no good because he cannot even smile normally. He is unlikely to be able to pretend because the range of expressions on his face is quite scarce. In this case, there is only one option left: to know each other very well. Lady Lily had a brilliant idea and suggested that Mr. Carhan go on a date. Walking through the streets of the city, Lilia saw random passers-by whispering. The girl understood them because she herself realized that she resembled a mother duck, and the guys following her were her ducklings. Milady wondered where to start, but for some reason nothing came to mind. On dates with their ex-fiancé, they sometimes went to a popular opera, and then they were sure to stock up on men's clothes. Lady Lily turned around and asked if she was right in thinking that Master was wearing the wrong clothes they had bought the last time they met. The guy was embarrassed and did not know what to answer, only threw an angry glance at his assistant. Milady suggested that the previous choice was too hasty and suggested going to boutiques with men's clothing. The young man agreed, and the girl said that first they had to agree to call each other by their first names from that moment on. Lady Lily laughed at Master Carhan's reaction and explained that it would make it easier to play lovers. The young man was so embarrassed that he began to resemble a large, clumsy teddy bear. The girl joked to herself that Tseon probably did not impregnate his master with strangers. Milady mentally assumed that the young master was so shy that he would scare off whomever he wanted. The girl thought that the rumors about the Duke's son were too sinister now, and she would like them to be moderate. According to Lilia, they should describe not only the shortcomings of his character, but also the advantages. Lady Baldin was haunted by one question: how to make sure that gossips did not consider the guy weak and soft. Mr. Carhan and Lady Lily came to the Easton Taylor boutique, which set fashion trends for the entire empire. This store is famous not only for the good quality of its goods, but also for its excellent service. Lilia often visited here with Richard. Therefore, she was not at all surprised when sellers and consultants of the boutique lined up in front of her with greetings. The store manager also went to the sales floor to say hello to a frequent customer. The woman said that she was honored to see Lady Lilia and Mr. Richard in her boutique. But, having carefully examined the guy with whom the girl came, she was taken aback that in 10 years of work she had made such a stupid mistake. After apologizing, the manager decided to continue the conversation as naturally as possible and offered to consider new products made of ribbons. The woman then offered to help Lady Baldwin if she needed to pick up a specific product, but the girl refused. She smiled and said that she would look at everything on her own and at a slow pace. The manager nodded in response, wished a pleasant pastime, and joined the ranks of sellers and consultants. The woman whispered to the saleswoman that she was standing next to her, that the guy who came with a regular customer was some kind of strange. The saleswoman confirmed this and added that this buyer had an intimidating appearance in comparison with Mr. Richard. The manager replied that he did not look like an ordinary person and recommended to be careful with him. Lady Lily looked at many different goods and asked the Duke's son for his opinion on almost every one of them. The manager noticed this and thought how it was possible to ask something about clothes from a person whose expression did not change. The woman did not show it and continued to smile, and she herself examined the guy's face. It seemed that he wanted to kill someone. She felt that the expression on her face was too harsh for someone who was simply choosing men's clothing. Lilia held up a green jacket with orange inserts to Karkan and asked what the guy thought of him. He was silent. The girl added that she should not be shy because she wants to know his true tastes and preferences. Then the guy admitted that clothes with such a palette of colors seemed bright and overwhelming to him. The girl looked at the jacket with doubt. The girl explained that the outfit is considered fashionable and offered to buy it for the future because over time, tastes may change. Unexpectedly, the young man said that clothes were enough for him and offered to choose something from the dresses for Milady. She was flattered that Mr. Avanthion had finally taken the initiative. The guy went to walk between the rows and carefully examine each product, and the girl was touched by what a concentrated face he had. Mr. Carhan approached Lady Lily with a dress in his hands and said that he had found something that would suit her, but he was not sure that he would like it. The girl was touched to the core because she realized that for the first time someone was choosing clothes for her. The ex-groom was especially enthusiastic about choosing only men's outfits exclusively for himself. Due to Lilia's long silence, the guy had the impression that the girl did not like the dress he offered. He embarrassedly said that he would choose something else. The girl protested, explained that she really liked it. Lady Lily clarified that these were not empty words, but the truth, and added that the young master had a keen eye. From what he heard, Karkan broke into a sweet smile. His cheeks turned pink, and he admitted that he had never been told such a thing. The girl was seized by excitement, and she offered the young man to change into what they had chosen for each other. The guy agreed. At the same second, the consultants ran up to the couple and asked to follow them to get into the fitting rooms. As Mr. Karkan walked away towards the fitting rooms, the girl thought for a moment, remembering his recent smile. Lady Lily had no idea that he was capable of making such a face. Suddenly, she realized that the more time she and the young master spent together, the more she would get to know sides of him. After a while, the young man came out of the fitting room in a shirt with a small cutout on the chest and a snow-white suit. Everyone present in the store rounded their eyes, looking at the guy. He asked in puzzlement what was wrong. Lady Lily replied that it was a great decision to choose this outfit because it fits Mr. Carhan perfectly. At that moment, he drew attention to the girl in the new dress he had chosen and noted that it looked incomparable on Lily. The girl thanked the young man and suggested that they move on, since they are done with their clothes. Lely Baldwin said that during the dressing she asked to pack all the clothes they chose. For some reason, Mr. Avanthion grinned and said that this time he would pay for all purchases. The guy told Lilia that from the very beginning of their acquaintance, he received something from her. Now he wants to repay for it at least once. The girl was embarrassed and timidly told the guy that the store belonged to her. Lady Lily added that from now on, he can use this boutique as his dressing room. At the exit from the store, the girl saw a poster depicting the suit that the ex-fiancé was wearing their last meeting. She asked if Mr. Richard came to this store without her. The manager replied that regularly. The last visit was 2 days ago. For some reason, this didn't make Lady Lily sad, and with a smile on her face, she headed towards the exit of the boutique. Lady Baldwin thought what a shameless bastard her ex-lover was, walking around the store of the one he had cheated on. The girl did not want Richard to continue to consider her weak and enjoy herself at her expense. Therefore, leaving her boutique, the girl announced to all the staff that from today, all members of the Tertian family are not allowed to enter. Leaving the store, Lilia and Karkan found Francis and Tision arguing with each other. Francis furiously argued that his lady was beautiful in any dress, and Tision shouted that the Lord was perfect even without a new suit. Lady Lily asked Malik how long this argument lasted, and he replied positively. The girl concluded that at least they had found something to talk about, and this would be useful to them, because they would have to meet often. Lady Lily clapped her hands to get the attention of her companions. She suggested that everyone go out for dinner, and everyone agreed. At the restaurant, Lady Lily handed Lord Karhan a menu and asked him to choose something to his liking. The young man studied the menu for too long. Lilia was surprised how a simple choice could take so long. The girl concluded that she was a little upset that even in such a situation, the young man was experiencing so many difficulties. Lilia thought that it was necessary to give him the opportunity to be in different situations and help him express his opinion without falling into a stupor. The girl asked how Karhan was doing with a smile. He replied that he did not have much success in this matter. Lilia replied that she just needs to train more often, and she also heard that massage to relax the muscles of the face helps. At the moment when the guy was trying to massage his neck, a waiter came up to the table and served the dishes that the couple had ordered. He put a plate of green salad on Milady and a plate of steak in front of the Lord. The girl said she had ordered a steak. The waiter apologized for the mistake, rearranged the plate with the steak, and asked who to put the salad to. There was no answer, but Karkan hesitantly raised his hand and, turning white with fear, barely audibly said that this was his order. The young master suggested that he probably needed more practice in communication skills. The girl said that maybe they should start practicing calling each other by their first names now. Lilia added that for the entire period of acquaintance, she was the only one who called Karkan by name. Suddenly the guy took a plate with her steak. He said he would slice it, and the girl looked at the Lord with admiration, cutting the meat into even slices. Lilia noticed that this dinner was like a real date. The girl thought to herself that she had not had such a thing for a long time. Karkan said that if this is called a date, then next time he will do much better. Then the guy turned to the girl and asked her to teach him, because he would try. Lady Lily smiled conspiratorially and suggested that she be called by her first name right away. Because of the Lord's unexpected request, he let go of his fork. The guy began to make only some sounds. Lilia laughed and said that apparently the young man would need a lot of practice even in this action. The girl clarified that there is still a lot ahead, smiling, calling a person by name. Lord Karkan sighed heavily and solemnly declared that he would do his best to succeed. After the end of the date at the restaurant, Lilia wanted to get into the carriage, but turned around because of Karhan, who asked if everything was okay today. The young man clarified that he assumed that his character could bring discomfort to the girl. The guy admitted that he would like to do everything possible not to cause unnecessary trouble during the contract. Lilia replied that if he continued in the same vein, he would definitely change soon. The girl promised to do whatever was required of her to help Mr. Avantheon. At the next meeting, she asked to carry the most useless thing, bought recently, preferably in a whole package. The young man asked why it was necessary. Lady Lily replied that she would explain when the time came. When the girl's carriage left, Thesion said that Lady Balden seemed to be a good person. Mr. Karkan smiled sweetly and confirmed the assistant's words, and Titian could not believe that he saw his lord like this. The young man looked at his lord and realized that he had come to this meeting with the firm intention of revealing Lady Balden's true intentions. Titian mentally noted that Milady had instead convinced him that she was the person who would betray Lord Karhan. The assistant informed his lord that a lot of unpleasant things await him in the future because the family would not approve of the changes. The greedy elders want to control Lord Karkan, and the Duke and Duchess try to achieve their goals using their engagement. Stella Delato was chosen among other daughters of noble families only because of the large amount of money her family had. People like the Duke and his wife will not tolerate Lord Karkan's willful actions. Thesion said that he needed to be well prepared for this, and Lord Karkan told him that his first priority was to find a place suitable for reading. The assistant asked his lord what kind of books he had in his hands. The young master replied that they were a gift from Lady Lily. Thesion kept up with his lord with questions about the theme of the books and whether the gift of literature would help in changing the master. The stranger watched and wondered if Lady Balden's fiancé was the guy who had been with her all evening. One day, the Earl Balden family gathered in full force to discuss Miss Lily's new chosen one. Henry, Lilia's brother, complained that he had just recovered from the news of the breakup of the engagement when his sister told him about a new lover. The young man announced to his parents that he had found several documents with information about Mr. Evanthion. Henry noted with regret that almost all the papers describe his actions on the battlefield, but there is no information about his personal life. Violetta Baldwin studied the document, which stated that the Duke's son had first taken part in the war at the age of 14. Usually, the Duke's legitimate children are rarely sent to the battlefield, even if it is possible to volunteer to take part in battles. But a person in his right mind will never seek his own death. There are rumors in society that Mr. Evanthion is a bloodthirsty man who knows no compassion and no tears, and who killed his brother. Count Baldwin wondered how his daughter fell in love with someone like him. Lily's mother asked if anyone had met Mr. Evanthion in person, as the rumors could be false. Count Cliff was very furious and began to shout that even if the gossip was exaggerated, it was not groundless. The man concluded that if there was even a small chance that Mr. Evanthion was dangerous, then his daughter needed to part with him urgently. The Count offered to give Lord Carcan a castle so that he would leave Lily behind. Henry replied that it wouldn't work, as Duke Evanthion's family was famous for its wealth. The Count offered to tell his daughter about the bad rumors associated with her chosen one. Violetta Baldwin explained that Lilia had known about everything for a long time. Count Cliff said that he would then go on a hunger strike. Lilia's father suggested that his daughter could again lock herself in the room for a month, refusing to part with her lover. Violetta replied that in this case there was no need to rush, but to follow the Lord to understand what kind of person he really was. Henry suggested in this case, said that he would continue his investigation and report if he found interesting information. Meanwhile, in the garden behind the Count's mansion, Miss Baldwin was sorting out letters, for she had spent a lot of time with Mr. Carcan. All these letters were written on the recommendation of Lord Richard. The author of the letters was asked to either buy something, invest in something, or make a donation. Lilia was annoyed that her ex-fiancé was still using her name. Leaning back in a chair from helplessness, the girl could not understand what to do to get rid of her ex-fiancé, who resembled a leech. The lady had not thought about it before, because she sincerely believed that she would become Richard's wife. But now she was tired of all this. She realized that she finally wanted to act on her own. She had a brilliant idea to start a business. The girl remembered how fun it was to watch her parents work and participate in their affairs as a child. She concluded that the conversation with her parents about starting her own business should be raised after the termination of the engagement. Suddenly, a servant called out to Lily and told her that gifts and a letter had arrived from the Marquisate of Tercian. The young lady read that Richard wanted to continue their last conversation and invited his ex-bride to talk to his castle. At the end, there was a postscript that the flowers symbolized his feelings. Lilia laughed, suggesting that Richard had both legs broken. The girl angrily informed the servant that she saw no other good reason not to come in person, but to ask for a visit to her mansion. Lily trampled on the bouquet, strained through his teeth that Richard had no feelings for her. As she left the garden, she shouted to the servant to burn everything her former fiancé had sent. Turning around, Lilia asked the servant to tell the messenger that if Richard wanted to meet, he would have to follow her terms. The girl looked at the roses engulfed in fire and finally decided that she would break off her engagement at any cost. 2 days later, Lilia finally came to the cafe to give Richard a document confirming the breakup of the engagement. At the entrance, the girl warned Francis and Malik that they could attack without orders if the Marquis's son did something bad to her. When Richard appeared and greeted Lilia, the escorts tensed, and their mistress said with regret that the meeting had taken place after all. She said that the pretext for the meeting was a paper of consent to break off the engagement and showed where the guy needed to sign. The young man grinned maliciously and said that although Lilia said that she wanted to break up with him, it was not so. He said that he did not believe her words about love at first sight, which arose at a banquet with Mr. Evanthion. The girl replied that she spoke sincerely, but it was up to the guy to believe in it or not. Lilia's words angered the guy very much. He suggested that the girl simply did not know the terrible rumors about the new chosen one. The girl clarified that she knew about everything. Richard laughed and added that Mr. Evanthion was called the devil. The ex-fiancé confidently stated that Lilia is dating her lover without sincere feelings because she wants to cause jealousy. Richard said that this was a logical assumption. Before that everything was fine, in 3 months they would have become spouses. He added that Lilia Budden is his first love. From the very first day they met, he was sure that she was his destiny. Lilia sighed sadly and remembered that she used to think so too, because the person who saved her life turned out to be a soulmate. There were many reasons why the girl liked him. She considered him a person who saw through the wealth of her real. Lilia could not remember the moment when the sensual relationship with the groom grew into a tense one. There were countless women curling around Richard, anxious days when they couldn't get in touch. Throughout their relationship, there were moments when Lilia had to give up the things she loved. Richard interrupted the girl's thoughts by asking if she remembered their first date and when they were admiring the flowers. But the girl sat motionless than a cloud and did not answer. Then Richard decided to move on to radical actions. He knelt down and said that he was out of his mind and had made a mistake, and added that this would not happen again. The former lover almost completely fell to the floor and asked to give a second chance. Unexpectedly, Lilia agreed. She pointed to the document on the termination of the engagement and said that first the guy needed to put his signature. Richard crumpled the contract and shouted that he did not agree to cancel the engagement, especially since he had already apologized. The guy shouted that Lady Baldwin would regret it very much, and asked if she knew about the gossip that was circulating in society about her. Lilia assured him that she did not care at all about outside dirty talk. Then she took a stack of copies of the document on the breakup of the engagement and threw it in the face of her former fiancé. Lily turned around abruptly and, leaving, said that Richard was the first to step on the path of infidelity. Miss Baldwin promised that things would be even worse if the guy continued to behave in the same way. Lilia promised that the ex-fiancé would beg for the breakup of the engagement. The guy asked if she really thought he would just sit back and watch. The girl told Richard to do as he pleased and asked him to stop selling her name because it was annoying. A few days later, Lily woke up and stretched quite a bit because she felt very rested. She suggested that the fact was that she had told the good-for-nothing fiancé everything that had accumulated inside. Suddenly, in the corridor, the girl met her brother, who said that she looked happy. His sister was surprised that Henry was not at work. The young man replied that he had a vacation. Lilia clarified that she was happy because she was going to meet Mr. Avanthion. She was immediately embarrassed because she remembered that she had not told anything about her new lover to her brother. Henry explained that his parents had told him in part, and his sister felt guilty for not discussing the topic with his brother earlier. She suggested that we have breakfast together one day to tell everything in detail. Henry promised to find time for this. Lily was very happy and said that she needed to go so as not to be late for the meeting. When Lilia was already walking further down the corridor, her brother called out to her and said that according to the weather forecast in the afternoon, it was raining. He asked his sister to take an umbrella with her. The girl was touched by such a manifestation of care. When Lily was out of sight, the guy thought that he would like to be honest and admit that he had been standing there since the morning to warn his sister about the rain. From the window, Henry watched Lily get into the carriage and thought that it was time for him to move out too. When the girl drove up to the store where she was going to meet with Carman, she saw a large crowd of people. The crowd was discussing a recent play and how beautifully the protagonist proposed with a music box. As a result, many guys wanted to propose to their beloved in the same way. Lily was shocked to see Lord Carcan among the crowded people. She ran up to the guy and said that the location had changed and he needed to hurry up to leave unnoticed. After catching his breath, Tessian noted that Milady had changed the meeting place last time because she was lucky. The guy complained that this was the second time after the tea house, so the next meeting place was chosen by Mr. Avanthion. Lady Lydia replied that it was even better because she could not control her luck. The girl noticed the box in my lord's hands and asked if it was the same item she had asked to bring. The gentleman nodded in agreement and added that he had purchased this thing about a week ago, but it turned out to be unnecessary. The girl concluded that she needed to be returned and offered the guy to do it on his own. Carcan stood in disarray in front of the store, to which it was necessary to return the purchased thing. The young man gathered his strength and went into a shoe boutique, but he looked at the sellers so loudly that they were frightened. The sellers pitifully called the manager, who asked Mr. Carcan if he was looking for something or if there were any problems. The Duke's son began to mumble and sweat from the exertion. He could not pronounce anything intelligible and articulate. The guy remembered how Lilia taught him to take a deep breath before starting a conversation with someone, to try to take control of his facial expressions, and then establish eye contact with the interlocutor and form words in your head that you want to say. Carcan tried to apply Lilia's advice and looked directly at the clerk. He panicked, began to bow incessantly and ask for forgiveness. Lord Carcan could not understand at what point he had done something wrong because he was following all the recommendations of Lady Baldwin. Suddenly, the young man heard someone knock on the shop window, turned around, and saw Lady Lily smiling. Lady Baldwin read on her lips that she believed in my lord and wished her good luck. The guy was very pleased because Lilia is the first person who looks with such a warm look, believes and cheers up. Karhan thought he didn't want to disappoint her, so he decided to try again to live up to the hopes placed on him. Lord Karkan opened the box and pointed to the shoes in it, explaining that he wanted them back. The steward, who had not yet recovered from his stern gaze, replied that he would be happy to help my lord. Mr. Karkan left the shoe store and the sellers breathed a sigh of relief because they thought they had problems. The manager said that he felt as if he had returned from the other world. When she met Karkan on the way out, Lilia wondered what he had in his hands. The young man replied in embarrassment that he did not know himself. It was just given to him as compensation for the return. Milady said that it would be difficult to carry these boxes behind her and suggested that they be left in the wagon. Lilia told Karhan that the guy was great in this situation. He said that he had a feeling that something was wrong. The girl replied that no matter what the process was, my lord did a great job. Lady Lily added that the most important thing was that Mr. Karhan had the courage to do so. He assumed that next time it would be better. The girl smiled contentedly and thought that it was very good to start with. If he practices more and becomes confident in expressing his opinion, then people will start to see him differently. Suddenly, two men in uniform appeared and, calling themselves the Imperial Police, arrested Mr. Avantheon. Lady Lily was indignant at the grounds on which he had been arrested, and the policemen replied that they were making an urgent arrest. The second policeman explained that a complaint had been received that this was the leader of a dangerous gang. Lady Lily stood up for Mr. Karhan and asked if it wasn't too much, since they didn't have any evidence. The policeman asked for an identity card because Mr. Karhan's look is ominous. The man added that for the sake of the Empire's safety, my lord needed to be checked. The girl wanted to resist, but Mr. Karkan said that there was nothing wrong with it, everything was fine. Lily again began to resent that everything was not all right because the police tried to detain Lord Karkan. She added that now they are demanding documents from the guy as if he is a criminal. The guy replied that it was just another stigma because of his appearance. Milady said that she could not believe that he had had to face such injustice all his life. Karkan searched all his pockets but found nothing and told the police officer that he had not taken his ID today. Tessuan then ran forward to show his papers, hoping that it would help his lord. The policeman was adamant and concluded that my lord was avoiding the identification procedure as criminals usually do. The girl was shocked by the behavior of the police, who apparently were not going to stop. Lilia reluctantly thought that she would have to use another method and loudly informed the men in uniform that they would regret it. The girl added that their salaries will be cut if they do not stop behaving recklessly. The guardsmen were not affected by this. They said that they received support from many nobles, so without the sponsorship of Milady, their salary would not decrease. The girl asked what would happen if it was sponsorship from the Baldin family. Then the police gasped in shock. The chief of them realized that Milady had platinum blonde hair and violet eyes. In addition, her escorts have swords with the coat of arms that was on the letter, announcing a large donation from the Baldin family. The man was extremely grateful, because it is difficult to live on a simple salary, and donations deprive you of worries about earnings. The Imperial Guard asked if Milady was Lady Baldin. She confirmed this, then the man in uniform made a low bow in front of Lady Lily. She sarcastically asked if she should show her ID. The man protested and said guiltily that he regretted making such a terrible mistake and apologized for not recognizing Lady Lily right away. The girl asked irritably if the policeman believed her because she did not have a sinister look. Without waiting for an answer, she added that the heir to the Avantheon family would be very upset by such a distrust. The guardsman's eyes widened even more as he realized that Mr. Karkan was standing next to Lady Lily. The guard bowed and apologized for having behaved so disrespectfully. As Lady Lily left, she said she hoped the officer would no longer stigmatize anyone because of their appearance. The girl noted that the incident was very depressing. The guy replied that this happens often. Karkan clarified that the situation especially worsened when he returned from the battlefields. He said that if he was just walking down the street, he was stopped for a document search and treated like a criminal. The guy smiled and noted that this time everything went quite well because there was a person who was on his side. The Lord said embarrassedly that everything would have gone better if he had brought his ID with him. The girl was surprised that even if he was misunderstood, he still did not blame other people. Lady Lily said that Mr. Karhan was not at all to blame for what had happened. Lady Lily promised to help him so that this would never happen again. Tession said that Lady Lily was indeed a wonderfully kind person. Francis replied that it was true because their mistress was the best. None of the knights noticed that Lilia's older brother was watching the couple, who noted that his sister's new chosen one was terrible. Mr. Avanthion left Lady Lily under the scorching sun to do some shopping. Henry noted that Lord Carcon was spending money recklessly. The most disgusting thing is that he forced the girl to deal with the incident on her own. Stella de Lota announced that at the upcoming meeting she wants to brew rose tea, which is served by her family. The girl said that she wanted to try it out on her dear friends first and winked at them. The ladies enjoyed the drink with particular enthusiasm and showered him with compliments, noting the excellent taste and wonderful aroma. The girls said that they envied Lady Stella because she was so well versed in business and soon she would become a duchess. Stella was embarrassed by the praise and replied that she and Lord Carcon had not even been engaged yet. Friends did not lag behind the girl and asked to tell more about her meetings with her betrothed because, according to rumors, they often see each other. The brunette replied that she meets with her beloved mainly at home because gossip is tiring. Stella thought to herself that she hadn't even had a real date with Carcon. She was just chasing the Lord. One of the friends said that she heard that Mr. Avanthion is considered a terrible person. It reminds her of one novel. The main character of the novel had a terrible character. No one could cope with the man, and the main character fell in love with him and tamed him. Stella thought it was the perfect story about her and Lord Avanthion. Now he shows coldness and pushes the girl away, but this is only part of the test. Lord Carcon is cold and cruel, like the main male character of that novel, but in the end he will be fascinated by Stella. Suddenly, the brunette noticed that one of her friends somehow hesitated. The girl asked her what was wrong. Lady Miller confessed that she had recently seen the young duke with another woman, and they walked close together. Stella could not believe her ears, furiously asked her friend who this woman was. Lady Miller called out the name of Lady Lily Baldwin, and the brunette screamed that this vial had hobbled Lord Avanthion. The dark-haired girl seemed to be engulfed in flames. She unexpectedly apologized to her friends and decided to leave. Leaving the tea party, Stella ordered the servant to urgently bring a carriage because she needed to get to the Avanthion family mansion. One day, sitting in a cafe, Lilia said that she had recently met with her ex-fiancé. As expected, he refused to break off the engagement. The girl noted that this handing-out bastard may try to separate or quarrel Lilia and Carcon. She said that Richard may decide to deal with the new chosen one of her would-be fiancé. Lilia suggested that she and Cockheart should make their relationship stronger. The girl suggested that Richard had probably been hiding for a while, watching from afar. Lady Baldwin replied that they could take advantage of this, inform each other's families, and spread the rumors everywhere. She said that she had told the family about Carcon. He was surprised and asked if the girl's relatives objected to him. Lilia replied that everything was fine and thought to herself that after talking about the chosen one, tension had settled between her, her parents, and her brother. The girl asked if Carcon had told his family about her, but instead of answering, he remained silent. The young duke looked at his interlocutor with colored eyes. She explained that it was better to report it as soon as possible. The girl noted that if this is not done, then his parents can set a date for engagement with Lady Stella. After a short pause, the young man replied that he would tell when the time came. Lilia noted that Carcon's face darkened like during a banquet when she asked about his family. The girl was curious about what was going on in the Avanthion family, but she cut herself off and decided not to ask any questions. The girl thought that the topic of family was delicate for discussion and decided to change the topic of conversation, praising the guy for today's courage. When Lord Carcon and Lady Lily stepped out onto the porch of the cafe, they saw that it was raining heavily outside. Francis held the lady's umbrella in his hands and said that because of the sudden rain in the nearby shops, the umbrellas were sold out. Malik asked the lady not to worry because her knights would share theirs. He wrapped his arms around Francis and Thesion and moved with his umbrella into the downpour, the Lord trying to stop them, but the noise drowned out her voice. Lilia concluded that there was nothing she could do, and she and Carcon would have to go together as well. The guy was very embarrassed, but still invited the girl under his umbrella. Walking along the alley to the sound of falling drops, Lilia thought that at such moments everything feels different. A downpour intensifies the surrounding aromas and the warmth of a person walking next to him or accidental contact with him. Suddenly, the girl noticed that Carcon was very wet because most of the umbrella was above her, so she was completely dry. Lady Baldwin asked if Lord Carcon would catch a cold, and he assured him that he was fine and that illness was rare for him. The young man said that what makes him happy is the realization that the girl is not wet. Lilia said that she was moving closer so that the umbrella would be enough for two. Carcon was shocked, but remained silent. At this point, they both concluded that this was what caring for another person looked like. The couple reached the carriage. Lilia noted that she was the only one who got here in comfort. The girl noted that she was sorry, and the guy replied that everything was fine. Then he addressed her by name and thanked her for the day. Lilia's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She noted that this was very unexpected, because Karkan called her by name for the first time. The girl said that she should also thank the guy for this, and added that she would look forward to the next meeting with him. Karkan looked after the departing carriage and noticed that his heart was beating violently. He put his hand to his chest, and for the first time in his life, he felt such frequent thrusts. The young duke sat in his carriage, and Thesion offered him a change of clothes. While Karkan was changing, he thought that it was only a quarter of a day, and many events had already happened that had happened for the first time. Thanks to Lady Balden, a new day began to bring a new experience. He liked such unpredictability, and he looked forward to meeting him. Karkan became gloomy in an instant, and wondered if he could have so carelessly amused, and if he could help Milady. The guy asked himself if the girl would need him after revealing his secret. Thesion asked his master not to speak like that again, for in spite of everything, he was now the heir of the Avantheon line. Karkan thought sadly that his family saw the heir in another person. The young duke felt a heaviness in his soul from these thoughts, so when he got out of the carriage, Titian asked if he was okay. Suddenly, someone called out to Mr. Avantheon, and he turned around and saw Stella Delot. She raced towards him in a rage, ignoring the heavy downpour. The brunette was angry and shouted and asked the guy where he had been for so long because it was already late. Thesion apologized and replied that it was already evening and the visit would have to be postponed, and it would be good to warn him of his intentions to come. The brunette said that it was amazing because, it turned out, she could not just come here. Karkan stood dead and silent, and Stella asked irritably how long she would stand and get wet in the rain. The guy sighed heavily and walked past the girl on the threshold of the entrance to his family's mansion. He turned around and asked what Stella needed. She decided not to show weakness in this situation in any way, because only in this way, as in that novel, you can get a bad man. The girl said that she heard a strange story about Lord Karkan walking with Lady Balden. Stella asked if it was a lie, and the young duke was sweating, but he braced himself and replied that it was true. The guy said that he had been communicating with Lady Balden for a long time. He asked Lady Stella to pretend that there was no conversation about the engagement. The girl was seriously enraged and asked the young man why he was so cruel to her. Stella shouted that the Duke and Duchess had already received her, which meant that everything had already been decided. There was no turning back. The young Duke apologized to Milady and said that his decision could not be changed. The girl was trying to find out if he wanted to shame her like that. The guy replied that he did not understand Stella's dissatisfaction because they were not in any relationship. Because of the noise near the front door, Duchess Avantheon came out. Lady Stella greeted her, and the Duchess asked what question had brought the girl to such a late hour. At this moment, the hereditary Duke remembered the most important reason why he had avoided Stella Delot. Every time something happened, she complained to the Duchess, and now she reported that Karkan had another woman. Her Grace looked at her son with contempt and said that they were not aware of the young Duke's new relationship. The woman assured that she would deal with everything, so Miss Stella could leave, but the girl was in no hurry to return home. She tried to contradict the Duchess, but her Serene Highness firmly and persistently advised her to stop interfering in the family matter. When the dark-haired girl was out of sight, the Duchess asked her son if all this was true. Hearing a positive answer, the woman went berserk and slapped Karkan in the face. Her Grace was reminded that they had taught the boy how to behave. They asked why their son was disgracing them, and concluded that the young Duke had remained miserable. Finally, the Duchess said that she did not think that Karkan would be like her brother in this. Karkan thought that the Duchess still loved her firstborn very much, even after the incident he had committed. The mother's faith in her eldest son remains unshaken, but his mistakes are passed by Lord Karkan. The youngest son is used as a puppet to conclude an unwanted engagement. The guy wondered how the Duchess could use her flesh and blood so prudently. Thesion interrupted the Lord's thoughts. He invited his master to go inside the mansion. At this time, Lily was enjoying a bath in the castle of the Balden family and thought how nice it would be to be at home. While swimming, the girl thought that she felt strange because she was visited by memories of meeting Karkan. The maid who was helping the mistress get dressed after the bath said that Lady Violetta was waiting for her at dinner. Lady Lily smiled and replied that she would go down to her family soon. At dinner, the parents discussed problems related to business, trade, and goods. Lady Violetta complained about how hard it was for her to work and asked her son if he wanted to help her. Mother was supported by the head of the family, telling Henry to quit the unprofitable government service as soon as possible and take up the family business. The guy said that he liked what he was doing now, and Count Cliff asked who would inherit the family business. Lady Lily wanted to say that she was interested in going into business, but she stopped in time. To tell the truth, she did nothing in this area. As a child, she helped her parents a little, but this is not considered work experience. The girl realized that she only has a desire to work with business, so she cannot take responsibility for the family's business. Lilia thought she would discuss this more when the engagement matter was resolved. Parents asked if their daughter regularly meets with the future Duke of Avantheon. She smiled feignedly. Lady Lily replied that they had seen each other today and wondered to herself why her parents had suddenly asked about Lord Carcan. Earl Cliff said that he had not heard the story of the couple's acquaintance. Lilia replied that she and Carcan fell in love at first sight. The man noted that this is very romantic, because he also fell in love with his wife at first sight. The father asked what his daughter liked in the chosen one. She did not know whether it was necessary to lie about facial features or about positive qualities. The girl said that Carcan is kind and polite, although there are bad rumors about him, but in fact he is a good person. Lilia's family members were shocked by the answer, because Henry had reported all the incidents during today's meeting of lovers. The girl asked if her new chosen one was not better than the pitiful and vile Richard. The mother noticed that her daughter herself had brought up the subject of the son of the Marquis of Tercian and asked if she would tell her why she had parted with him. Lily mentally replied that the moment was right, the brother was here now, and now there was a strong shield in the form of Avantheon. The girl gathered her strength and said that Richard had cheated on her. Silence reigned at the table for a couple of seconds. The whole family was numb with shock. Then everyone except Lily jumped up from the table. The Count began to look for his dagger with shouts. The Countess ordered an urgent carriage to go to the Marquisate of Tercian. Henry grabbed a knife to deal with the scoundrel. Lady Lily's eyes widened at what she heard. She screamed loudly to stop the enraged relatives. Lady Violetta asked why her daughter did not tell as soon as the incident occurred. The girl replied to herself that if this problem could be solved immediately, then she would have told a long time ago. Lilia realized that the main reason why it was difficult for her to tell everything was the fear of hurting her parents and brother. Although they were initially against the engagement, Lilia still always remained for them the person they loved. They made their daughter happy, but it was not happiness that was terribly shattered. The girl realized that if they found out the truth, they would be as hurt as she was then. Lilia did not want to complicate their lives. Lady Lily shed tears when she remembered that the family members were against the engagement, but the girl did not listen to them because she wanted to get married. She explained that she was ashamed because of this, so she wanted to solve the problem on her own. Lilia apologized to her parents. They said that it was not their daughter's fault, and added that they would always be on her side. Henry asked his sister what she planned to do next. The girl replied that the bastard Richard would try to save the engagement. Lady Lily explained that together with the future Duke, she would find a way to stop him. Hearing the name of Mr. Avantheon, the family was greatly surprised, and the girl explained that thanks to him, she was protected, and Richard would not harm. The Count, the Countess, and their eldest son decided to consult and concluded that the new chosen one might not be so bad. Lady Violetta said that he should be the first to take a step forward. Henry replied that he did not like this idea very much. In spite of his displeasure, he announced to his sister that they would trust her and Lord Carcan to break off the engagement. The guy noticed that after the official cancellation of the engagement, the Baldwin family would also begin to act against Richard. His brother said that they had to see for themselves first, and asked to invite Mr. Avantheon to visit them at Baldwin Castle. Mr. Avantheon read the invitation, and beads of sweat appeared on his face, and Ticion said that it was expected. The guy said that it would be difficult for his master to gain the favor of the Baldwin family on the first impression. Therefore, there was only one way left. To storm Lady Lily's relatives with gifts, the lord and his assistant went to the shops. Carhan reviewed almost all the products on the market and noted with regret that the influence of the Baldwin family is enormous. All the goods that the young man looked at were marked with the coat of arms of this family. Mr. Avantheon had already begun to doubt that he would find worthy gifts, so Ticion asked him what Miss Lily preferred. Karkan thought for a moment, but the memory of the first meeting on the balcony came to the rescue, with a bottle of champagne behind the girl. Mr. Karhan asked if the alcohol could be a gift. Thesion nodded in agreement. Then the hereditary duke announced contentedly that they were going to the liquor store. Entering the store, Karkan looked at the seller with his usual terrifying gaze. Thesion asked his master to be calm, but Karkan tried to soften his expression. He looked around the liquor shelves and concluded that he didn't understand it at all. The clerk noticed my lord's puzzled look and asked if he could help. Karkan looked around and looked with his typical gaze, and the man shivered like a frightened puppy. The young man remembered that he needed to behave more gently, so in a calm tone he said what he needed to find for a gift. The seller agreed and thought to himself that this client was not so scary. Mr. Karkan came out of the wine shop with many packages in his hands. Tishan said that he had déjà vu. Karkan thought that it was important not only to be gentler with other people, but also to learn how to refuse. On the way to the map, Lord Karkan and his assistant noticed a shop. Thesion said that they could choose gifts for Lady Balden's family there. They were walking there when they suddenly saw that Richard had been thrown out of the clothing boutique. He asked indignantly how the guards of a fashion store could do this to the son of the Marquis Tertian. The young men apologized, but said that members of the Tertian family were not allowed to enter. They asked Mr. Richard not to make any noise, otherwise they would call the police. Going back, they noticed Mr. Avanthion. The guards remembered that he had come with Lady Balden and thought it would be nice if he could visit their atelier. On the day of the visit to the Balden family, the gilded gate swung open and the young duke's carriage drove into the garden. Karhan was visited by jitters, and Thesion noted that everything looked great, although nothing else could be expected from the Balden family. The carriage drove into the garden, Lord Karkan's assistant suggesting that they would soon arrive at the castle itself. However, it was about an hour before they were at the front door. Mr. Karhan and Thesion were greeted by a smiling Lady Lily, who thanked them for coming. The Lord's assistant complained that it was not easy because the road seemed endless. The girl apologized that the invitation was so sudden. She explained that she had not been able to stop her family. Karkan replied that everything was fine, then handed Lilia a bouquet of flowers and thanked her for the invitation. The girl admired the bouquet and the young duke admired her. Lily looked up from the flowers and said that it was time to see the guests off and invited the lord and his assistant inside. The decoration of the estate was striking in its wealth and luxury, and many magnificent paintings hung at the entrance. Thesion noted that the mansion is like an art museum. Lady Lily replied that her father is an ardent fan of painting. Then she noted that most of the paintings are original works by artists. Thesion was surprised and thought that the gifts might seem too simple. Lilia said that before guests meet with her family, she must warn them. She admitted that her parents and brother are quite unusual people who can ask harsh and difficult questions. The girl asked to answer the questions seriously and in detail. Karkan nodded in agreement. Lily advised the young duke to relax and not to worry, because she would be there for him. Opening the doors to the living room, Lilia thought that she was in the armory. Swords hung on the walls, and the family was in full dress uniforms. Earl Cliff introduced himself in formal style, adding that he was the loving father of the beautiful Lily. Then he introduced his wife as a mother who raised their daughter with great warmth and trepidation. The man did not forget to mention Henry, describing him as a responsible and caring older brother. The girl could not imagine that her family would go so far and turn a simple meeting into a combat zone. Karkan was numb with shock. Lilia had to push him with her shoulder to make him introduce himself and thank him for the invitation. The Balden family did not hesitate to discuss the daughter's chosen one, that he really looked intimidating. Henry concluded that the rumors were true. Lady Violetta urged not to jump to conclusions and invited the guy to sit down. Lilia looked at the table and she was seized with horror because it was more suitable for an interrogation than for a family dinner. The Count's daughter asked the maid to move her chair and place it next to the chair of the hereditary duke. This caused a negative reaction from the girl's family. She thought that her parents and brother were behaving like children. At the table, Karkan told Count Cliff that he had brought small gifts, wine and health products. Henry looked at the gifts with contempt and asked if this meant that they should be harmed and then repaired. Count Cliff said that he had given up drinking alcohol since yesterday, but Lily knew it was a blatant lie. Just yesterday, she watched her father and his companions drink a bottle of wine. When her mother reached for health products, Lilia took them away so that no one else would say anything about them. The girl thanked her lover for choosing and giving just what she really likes. Then, in exasperation, she asked the family if they were really going to be so disrespectful all evening. Earl Cliff said he was grateful to my lord for taking care of him and bringing gifts to his daughter. This somewhat diluted the situation. Lord Carcon smiled for the first time in the entire meeting. After an awkward pause, Lady Violetta shared her daughter's story about love at first sight. The woman asked what my lord liked so much. At that moment, Lilia panicked, because she had not rehearsed the answer to this question with Carcon. The young man replied that at the banquet to this day he was impressed by Lilia's happy face, on which a bright smile blooms. The girl's mother approvingly replied that it was really impossible not to fall in love with her daughter's smile. Count Cliff concluded that such a reason could be believed. Lady Lily thought that the critical moment had passed. Romantic books that the girl advised the young man gave their results. He did a great job. But it's too early to relax, because Lilia had no idea what the next question the family would ask. Henry noted that when his sister talked about Mr. Avantheon, she gave him compliments. The brother said that it was exactly the same when she first brought Richard to meet him, so he would not allow the same situation to happen again. He said that he wanted to ask a personal question. Lord Carcon gave his consent. Henry said that he had heard of the young Duke of Avantheon's long involvement in the battles. The sister rebelled, telling her brother that it was not a very delicate topic to discuss at the family table. His brother smiled feignedly and said that if the young Duke was uncomfortable talking about it, then he shouldn't. Secretly, Henry hoped that Carcon would show a dark side in the conversation, because a person who has received so many awards cannot be white and fluffy. Carcon replied that he was a volunteer, and added that he had no interesting stories because war is a terrible place. Lilia's older brother was surprised by this answer, and said that he would speak frankly. He explained that his family was worried about the negative rumors that swirled around Mr. Avantheon. Suddenly, Tician intervened in the conversation, apologized for his rudeness, and asked permission to explain everything. He said that all the rumors were false, as Lord Carcon's achievements on the battlefield had been greatly distorted. The guy thought that he was still trying to protect his master and protect him from society by spreading gossip. Lord Carcon looked with admiration at the assistant who decided to make things right and called the master a benefactor who had saved hundreds of lives. Members of the Baldwin family concluded that it did not seem that the guy was lying, and admitted that the rumors were not true. They assumed that since Carcon had come a difficult way in the war, he must have risen to the rank of general or knight commander. Carcon protested and said that he had been demobilized as an officer. What he heard shocked the entire Baldwin family, including Lilia. Everyone knew that even the nobles of the lower class easily rose to the top. Lilia's parents and brother began to whisper that it was not for nothing that the Duke's son had resigned as an officer. Their discussion was interrupted by Lilia's loud cough. Count Cliff took his daughter's hint and announced that dinner was ready. It was time to start eating. There were so many dishes on the table that Carcon's eyes ran wild. Lady Violetta asked if he had any suggestions for food. The guy answered in the negative, and Lady Lily quietly came to the maid to put vegetable dishes next to the guest. Carcon protested, but the girl said she wanted him to eat what he liked. The Baldwin family was surprised by Mr. Carcon because he looks like a predator, but in fact he is a vegetarian. Even the maid who was carrying the soup wondered if such a strong guy would have enough vegetables. She stared at the unique guest so much that she dropped the soup when she came past Milady. Carcon instantly reacted and covered Lily with his body, and then asked if she was okay. Lily asked the young Duke at the same time as the young Duke if he was all right. The maid did not stop apologizing, and Lady Lily said that it was necessary to cool his hand, because the guy could burn himself. The girl ordered the maid to call a doctor and bring a large amount of cold water. The Count and Countess remarked that it was good that the soup had poured over their clothes, and that nothing had come into contact with their skin. Henry concluded that the Baldwin family was indebted to Lord Carcon, because if it were not for him, trouble would have happened. After a while, the doctor came and immediately began to ask the mistress about her symptoms. Lady Lily explained that another person was injured and pointed at Mr. Carhan, adding that soup had been spilled on him. There might be a burn. The doctor asked Carhan to take off his shirt and concluded that it was a light burn and there was nothing dangerous, and recommended an ointment. Hearing this, the girl screamed that she would help apply the ointment. She assumed that she would be able to repay the guy for getting hurt while trying to help. Both were embarrassed. The girl asked if Carcon minded. He assured that he was fine. The healer concluded that there was an unusual atmosphere between the lady and the master, gave Lady Lily a jar of ointment, and left the room. When the doctor left, Lilia decided to start applying the ointment and saw the guy's back cut with scars. The girl suggested that the young man received many wounds on the battlefield. Karkan complained that the ointment was baking. Lilia tried to persuade him to be patient, and then, almost crying, she said that the incident had happened because of her. The guy protested, said that everything was fine, it didn't even hurt him, just the ointment burned the skin. Lily beamed with a smile, bandaged the burn, and happily announced that she had brought my lord new clothes. When Karkan put on a fresh shirt, Lilia noted that the guy had not eaten properly and offered to have a snack in this room. After a while, a small table was bursting with various dishes. In a calm atmosphere, the guy and the girl ate their fill. After the end of the meal, the couple went for a walk. Lilia noted that Karkan did a great job today. The girl apologized for the fact that her family was too assertive. The guy said that at times he was scared. Lilia explained that after the experience with Richard, her parents and brother are wary. Karhan replied that he understands because her family is worried. The guy admitted that the whole visit was thinking about how not to make a mistake and not to expose their fake relationship. It seemed to Lily that there was an angel in front of her. She promised to carefully monitor next time so that such a situation did not happen. The couple continued to walk in the garden. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the young duke and said that he had something to say to Lily. The guy said that Stella Delata recently came to him and asked about his relationship with Lilia. Lady Baldwin suggested that Stella probably had her own source of information. The guy said that he asked the pursuer to pretend that there was never talk of engagement. The young duke sadly clarified that, of course, Stella did not agree, but Lily explained that the main thing was that he indicated his position. The guy complained that he could not tell his family about it yet. He did not even know where to start. The girl advised to be brief. She added that for persuasiveness, she would soon come to visit the Avantheon mansion. Suddenly, the guy said that Lilia was lucky with her family. The young man said that it was clear that she was friendly, family members were close and cared for each other. At this moment, Lilia asked herself if the fake lover was hiding the fact that he had a bad relationship with his family. The girl frankly admitted that she does not always have a good relationship with her parents and brother. Sometimes there are quarrels and conflicts. Then she offered to take a walk to her favorite place. On the way, she told how she was once afraid of water. Lilia clarified that she was chilled to death when she even just looked at the water, but assured that everything was fine now. The girl took off her shoes, lifted the hem of her dress, and went into the water. She explained that a few years ago she almost died by falling into a pond. Lilia said that then she was pulled out by Richard Tertian. It seemed that he was given by fate. The savior became an important part of her life. The girl admitted that for the past few years she could not imagine her life and herself without her ex-fiancé. Lilia added that her feelings were sincere and strong. She believed Richard's words about love. With regret, the girl said that it turned out they did not love her, but her money. Some people think that you can get anything for money. Lilia noted with regret that wealth had never brought her what she really wanted. Money did not help to achieve reconciliation with the family, the devotion of the knights accompanying her, and the heart of a loved one. With bitterness in her head, she asked why Richard decided to play with the girl's feelings, if he could initially ask for a reward for the rescue. Lady Baldwin concluded that she would never have fallen in love with Richard Tertian if he had not saved her. Karkan asked if she still loved her ex-fiancé. In response, Lilia laughed, adding that he was now her enemy. Suddenly, the girl smiled sweetly, stretched out her hand to the guy, and offered to sit together. She dangled her legs in the water and admitted to the young man that she often comes here in the summer, but her parents do not know about it. Then Lily looked dreamily at the sky and asked if it was a date. Karkan looked at her interlocutor uncomprehendingly. The girl calmed the guy down, saying that she did not know either. She had never had a real date with Richard. Lilia felt that she was finally in a real relationship, albeit for a period of 1 year, letting it be just a game to break off the engagement. The girl had the feeling that she was having a good dream. Lilia did not notice how it began to get dark. She shifted the young duke's gaze, noticed his smiling expression, and suggested that he go back. When they returned, they met an annoyed Thesion, who complained that the mansion was so large that they had to ask for directions. The assistant asked where master and mistress were. Lily said that she had gone away to cure Lord Karkan. The girl felt embarrassed that she and Karkan left and did not take care of Tishan, so she decided to tell her about the flares. Lilia explained that everyone has them, because if you get lost in the castle, you can ask someone for directions. She clarified that it would not be possible to do this outside the house. At that moment, a maid approached. She said that Lady Lily was called the Countess, and the girl replied that she would come after seeing off the guests. Karkan assured that there was no need to worry, they would find a way to the exit, Lilia protested, because guests are not treated like this. The young duke added that they needed to return as soon as possible, and the assistant said that he remembered the way to the front door. The girl sighed sadly and concluded that if so, she would go to her mother. Lord Karkan and his assistant were walking down the corridor, but they were stopped by a familiar voice that shivered. It was Count Baldan, who asked if the guests were already leaving and how Mr. Karkan was feeling. The young man replied that he had only a slight burn, and nevertheless he received excellent treatment. Earl Cliff said he was delighted and unexpectedly bowed to Lord Karkan and added that he was sincerely grateful. The man explained that he wanted to repay the young duke somehow. If he needed anything, let him know. The guy protested, explained that he had received the necessary medicine, and that was enough for him. An awkward silence hung between the interlocutors. Karkan noticed that they were standing near the painting, and Lilia was talking about her father's love for art. Karkan decided to diffuse the awkward situation with a compliment to the picture. The Count's eyes sparkled. He asked if the guy was also interested in art. Immediately, the man grabbed the young man by the hand and dragged him to other objects of art to hear a detailed review. Count Cliff led Lord Karkan to the painting and waited for his opinion. The guy explained that lines are swords of good and evil. The young man added that the swords would never intersect, but they existed in the same space at the same time. Count Cliff was pleasantly surprised and took the guy to the next picture, noting that he clearly knew it. Lord Karkan did not even know the name of this work of art. It was suggested by Thesion. The man admitted that he had no idea that the young master could be such an art critic. The Count invited the guy to the exhibition, which he curates, to have a deeper conversation. Karkan mumbled for a long time, covered with sweat, but still said that he would be happy to attend this event. The Count was inexpressibly glad of this, and the young man mentally cursed himself that he had not been able to refuse the offer again. Leaving Baldan Castle, Karkan caught himself thinking that he had been in an unfamiliar world. Here people quarrel but still take care of each other. Love, beauty, and warmth reign in this world. The young duke would have liked to be in this atmosphere longer, but he realized that this was not the place he should be. A few days later, Lady Lily came to the Empire's central bank because she had received a letter about the need to expand the vault. A bank employee informed Lady Lily that in addition to the profits from the reconstruction of the coffee shop, the store with boxes had succeeded. The bank employee asked if Lady Baldan wanted to know the amount of money in the account. She clarified that she would name the current amount because interest is accrued right now. When the current balance sheet was announced, Francis and Malik almost fainted from the number of figures. Lilia smiled, said that it was no longer clear where to spend so much money, and asked to add 2 underground safes in her name. After the bank, Lady Lily decided to visit a cafe and treat the nights to delicious desserts. In parallel with tea drinking with sweets, the girl studied a newspaper with advertisements for shops, boutiques, and shops. In many advertised establishments, she has been or has already purchased them. The girl could not understand what to do if the speed of spending did not keep up with the speed of accrual of money. Lily was called out by Richard's older sister, Siona Tercian, and said that she did not immediately recognize Lady Baldan. Apparently, she had changed during this time. The girl with ruby hair said that she was just going shopping and asked Lily to follow her. Siona didn't understand why Lily was hesitating and still sitting there, because she had already come to the sidewalk. Lady Baldan wondered if Richard hadn't told his sister about the breakup of the engagement. Lily rose from her seat and warned Francis and Malik that she would be back soon. She thought it was good that she had accidentally met Siona Tercian, because she would be able to explain to her that the naive Lily was no more. Lady Baldan caught up with a girl with ruby hair near the store. She said that she was planning to get pregnant. Siona said that it would be more correct to buy baby care products in advance. The sellers were not happy with the client. Last time she opened the packaging of the goods, but did not buy, lowered prices at will. Siona loudly declared that she was going to buy all the goods that she had looked at during the last visit. After a while, the store staff put all the necessary goods in the center. A girl with ruby hair noticed that the material and upholstery of the stroller were not of very high quality. A fastidious customer asked for something more expensive and better. The saleswoman pointed to the most luxurious model of the store. The buyer saw the proposed model and exclaimed that it was a delightful stroller. She said that she would buy everything. The store employee named the total amount of the purchase, and Lady Siona asked Lady Lily why she was standing still and not paying. Lady Baldin moved to the checkout and said that she would pay for only one item, a rattle for her puppy. In an instant, the girl with ruby hair got angry and shouted that Lilia had eaten something wrong today and asked what she should do. Lilia advised her to pay for it herself, and Siona was surprised that her brother's fiancé had changed her behavior. Lilia remembered that she had always paid with a smile, and Siona reminded her that they would soon be a family and asked if it was really difficult to pay. Lady Baldin said that she did not want to unite with the Tercian family and added that from now on she would not waste her money. The girl with the ruby hair was even more enraged and said that with such behavior, Lily would not enter the Tercian family. She threatened to tell her brother, and Lilia asked if Richard hadn't told his sister that the bride had broken off the engagement. Lady Baldin calmly headed for the exit. Lady Siona followed her indignantly, but the sellers stopped the client. They shouted that the harmful visitor came for the umpteenth time, unpacked the goods, and did not buy anything. The store employees just did not let her out of the commercial establishment. Lady Lily was walking down the street and thought that Richard, although he had quarreled with his fiancée, did not tell his family about it. The girl suggested that his pride prevented him. She decided to take this step on her own. A few days later, the announcement of the breakup of the engagement was published in a public newspaper with a mass audience. Lilia thought that the Tercian family would know about everything in this way. The next day, Lady Baldin came to see Mr. Avanteon and found him reading a book on art. The girl noted that this was a good topic to study, remembered that her father was soon holding an exhibition of paintings, and invited Carcon. Without waiting for an answer, she announced that today the young man would learn to refuse. Lilia made a pitiful expression on her face and asked the guy for some money. Less than a second later, Carcon agreed, reached for his wallet, and asked to clarify how much he needed. Lilia objected that the point is for the young man to practice saying no, even if they press on pity. Carcon replied that he could not refuse the lady, so whatever request she had, he would like to listen to the girl. Lily was touched, but cut herself off. Thinking that now was not the time, she said that she was grateful for her responsiveness. She added that the young duke needed to be more careful with his money and announced that it was her turn to refuse. The guy just began to pronounce a request for help, as the girl coolly replied that nothing would work since she was busy. Carcon lowered his gaze and was so sad that he resembled a teddy bear. Lilia noted that this was just training. Lilia explained that if someone asks for something, then the young man needs to determine whether it is acceptable for him. The girl clarified that you do not need to make sure that you are afraid of him, but you need to learn to defend personal boundaries. Lady Baldin added that if someone continues to insist on their request when Mr. Carcon refused, then they should leave. The guy asked if it was necessary to go that far. The girl replied that there are people in the world with bad intentions. Lady Baldin clarified that it is not necessary to be kind to everyone. The most important thing is that he does not suffer. Lilia said that the guy now has 3 goals, so that people do not fear and avoid him, learn to express his opinion. The guy's most important goal is not to feel guilty in front of other people. He promised that he would try. The girl thought that the young man needed practice, and remembered that when they first met, she noticed that he had problems. Leaving the cafe, Lilia explained to the guy that it would be more effective to train when shopping. The lady was walking along the sidewalk. A guy came up to her and asked for directions. The girl advised to seek help from the security guard at the end of the street. He thanked me for the hint and asked me to pay him some more attention. Suddenly, it dawned on Lilia that this annoying guy was promoting a strange religion. He was the perfect target for training. Lilia pulled Carcon closer, and the preacher said that the guy had extraordinary energy, so he wanted to talk to him. Carcon was surprised at how easily the guy started a dialogue. The propagandist called the master brother and said that he had a strong energy. The young duke gathered his strength and declared that he was not interested, but the missionary was not embarrassed. He frowned and said that it was very sad that he was considered a person who approached everyone. Carcon realized that the unpleasant consequences of the refusal were not long in coming. The preacher said that he wanted to share something good. The guy asked to be understood correctly. The young duke boiled with anger. He clenched his fist and strained through his teeth that he was busy and it was time for him to go. This time, the persistent response worked, and the propagandist of religion lagged behind Carcon. The guy turned his attention to Milady and said that she had a radiant energy, and she looked like a kind person. The missionary asked Lilia if she was interested in what he wanted to tell her, and suddenly Carcon turned sharply and grabbed the guy by the shoulder. The young duke said that he had asked the preacher to leave in a good way, because they were in a hurry. The guy ran away from Lord Carcon screaming that he was a demon and Satan. Lily happily noted that the young duke had exceeded all her expectations, noted that it was magnificent. The guy replied that it turned out that he was good at practice. Lilia thought that she had never seen Karkan smile so wide. Lilia thought that no matter how much she trained the guy, he always smiled awkwardly and strained. The girl asked what the guy was thinking when he smiled, but he couldn't admit that the smile was a reaction to Lilia's happy face. The young duke replied that he remembered the dog he had when he was a child, and the girl was saddened that it was so simple. Then they cheered up and advised the guy every time he was nervous to remember his pet from childhood. The girl announced that from now on, when she talks about the dog, Karkan needs to smile. Lilia noted that Karkan is a capable student and suggested learning to swear, especially since Franz is an excellent teacher in this regard. Richard looked at the mess he had made and concluded that it was necessary to learn to tame his temperament. He smashed his room with emotion when he ended a conversation with his sister, who found out about the breakup of the engagement of his younger brother and Lady Baldwin. Richard was interrupted from his negative thoughts by a servant, who said that he was being summoned by the Marquis. He suggested that the reason for the demand for an urgent meeting with his son was a note in the newspaper about the termination of the engagement. When the guy came to his father, an armful of newspaper pages flew into him, where on the front page there was a photo of Lily and Richard. The Marquis demanded an explanation. The young man replied that he and the bride had a quarrel, and she was still angry. The man said that he did not believe that such a note could come out because of one quarrel, and called his son a pathetic premature. The Marquis shouted in surprise that it was possible not to cope with the heart of one girl. Richard fell to his knees and asked his father for help. His father asked the boy if he had spoken to someone from the Baldwin family, but there was silence in response. The man announced in an indifferent tone that he would talk to Henry Baldwin and ordered his son to go away. When the young master returned to his mansion, he was greeted by Titian, who stated that he was glad that his master had learned to refuse. The boy remembered how he used to stand at Lord Karkan's chambers at night. They tried to take away food from the master, asked him to go into battle instead of someone else, or made impossible demands. Tezion said that he was truly touched and grateful to Lady Baldwin. Karkan smiled and thought that the assistant was right. The young duke realized that without Lily's help, he would not be able to refuse anything. Karkan opened the box that had been handed over by Lilia during the meeting. There were sweets and a note wishing bon appetit. Seeing the candies, the guy remembered a moment from his childhood when he had a similar box of sweets, and he was eager to share them. He offered sweets to the maids. They said that the duke's son was very kind, but this was not enough. He wanted his mother's love. At that moment, the boy wondered if he was kind, whether his mother would love him. Little Karkan wanted his mother to love him. That was all he could think about, but in response he received only a cold, fleeting glance. He did not know since when his mother had a look full of hatred, as if he had always been like this, and Karkan was an unwanted child. The boy thought that he had made some mistake, wanted to correct it, wrote pleasant notes to his mother, attached fresh flowers to them. He wanted to win at least a drop of his mother's love and trust, but one day he went into her room. In the trash can, he saw all his gifts given to his mother. From that moment, the gap between them began to grow. That day, Karhan decided not to show any more kindness, but everything changed with the appearance of Lady Baldwin in his life. Lord Karkan asked Titian if the Duchess was at home, and when he received a positive answer, he said that he had something to talk to her about. Karkan knocked on his mother's room, but did not come in, but only opened the door slightly and said that he wanted to talk. He said that he had met a girl. At that moment, the silhouette of the Duchess appeared in the doorway. She had already raised her hand to slap her in the face, when suddenly the young duke said that it was Lady Baldwin. The woman told her son that he had finally begun to do something useful. She knew that Baldwin was the richest family in the empire. Finally, the Duchess said that she wanted to meet her son's new chosen one as soon as possible. The next day, Lilia received a note from Karkan saying that her parents wanted to get acquainted. The girl realized that she was being invited to the Duchy of Eventéon, and she began to worry a lot because it was her turn to play the role. Lady Lily's worries were interrupted by a maid who reported that an intruder's carriage had arrived at the main gate of the mansion. This guest turned out to be Lady Stella Delat, who was terribly nervous and shouted at the servants, asking if they had notified their mistress. They replied that they had taken a short drive to the mansion, so the lord should soon be notified of the arrival of the guests. The guard asked to wait a little longer, and Lady Stella remembered how the Duchess had promised to resolve the Karkan issue. The dark-haired girl concluded that there was no change in solving the problem, but she could no longer stand idly by. Stella concluded emphatically that the purpose of her visit was to warn Lady Lily. A flare exploded over the garden, and Lady Stella's governess was amazed that the estate was so large that fireworks were used for the signal. The guard opened the gate and said that it was possible to pass, and Stella was indignant at how it was possible to keep a guest out of the mansion for so long. Lady Stella looked out of the window and concluded with displeasure that the rumors were exaggerated. There was nothing special about Baldon Manor. The girl added that the garden in the residence of the Count of Delot is much better, and here there are only trees, there is no promised splendor. The maid informed the mistress that they had just arrived at the main garden. The dark-haired girl said that the scale of these territories could drive you crazy. Stella saw the glass greenhouse and noted that it was much larger than the Delot family's. Stella warned the maid that she would take a little walk and look around. She was amazed at the beauty of the garden. The dark-haired girl had always thought that her house was the most beautiful after the Imperial Palace, and it was unacceptable for Lily Baldon to be any better at anything. Stella concluded that she would not allow this to happen, and decided to hire a new gardener for her garden and plant flowers from Baldon's garden first. The girl noticed that these flowers had petals the same color as her eyes. She decided that it was time to go back. When she came out of the greenhouse from the other exit, she saw a forest in front of her, which had no end. The girl realized that she was lost and began to call for help, but no one answered. Lady Lily joyfully exclaimed that she was glad to see Lady Stella. Although she was hardly found, it was good that there was a maid near the greenhouse. The dark-haired girl pointed out that the size of the manor's garden wasn't very practical. Lilia replied that the land near the mansion was selling cheaply, and the Baldon family bought it. Stella was incredibly glad that she had finally sat down, because her legs hurt so much, and Lilia asked why the guest came. The dark-haired girl replied that she had heard from Mr. Avantheon about frequent meetings with Lady Baldon, and she confirmed it. Then the guest seemed to explode and shouted that this was shamelessness, because at the banquet Lilia claimed that there was nothing between them. Stella reminded her that Lilia was engaged, but the blonde girl asked in a calm tone if she had read the newspaper recently. Lady Baldon announced that the engagement would soon be broken. The guest could not believe these words. Stella said that apparently, relationships do not play a big role for a blonde girl, and she will easily find a new chosen one. The dark-haired girl stood up and angrily assured Lily to leave her man behind, and she asked in response if they had sincere love. Stella sat back down and indifferently asked what it mattered, since their marriage of convenience. Miss Stella was the only child of Count Delot, so she lived without wanting for anything. However, in high society, there was extraneous talk that the girl did not look like a noble lady. In society, they said that expensive jewelry would not help her, because she was not worth a finger to Lady Baldon. Stella understood that she was not up to Lilia Baldon. She had worse education and social relations, less knowledge of etiquette. The girl recalled that she had been compared to Lady Lily since childhood, because they were the same age and had a similar social status. Lady Stella plunged into the memories of a year ago when she appeared at a ball in the Imperial Palace. The attention of the guests was riveted on her. They showered the dark-haired girl with compliments about her appearance. Young ladies surrounded Lady Delot to find out which boutiques she buys outfits and accessories from. Even the arrogant ladies could not hide their interest in her. Miss Stella bathed in the curious and envious glances of the guests present and felt like the main character of the novel. Lady Delot's triumph was interrupted by the appearance at the ball of Monsieur Richard and Lady Baldin, who announced their engagement. Enthusiastic responses were heard from the crowd about the fact that the newly made bride and groom were a beautiful couple. They were brought together by fate. Then Stella Delota instantly became angry and concluded that she urgently needed to find a groom in order to be in no way inferior to her rival. The groom must be in a better position than Richard Tercian. At this moment, the men were gossiping about Duke Avantheon. One of them said that his evil son removed the firstborn and became the heir. Stella was glad that she had found a suitable candidate. Sitting in the living room in front of Lady Lily, Lady Stella declared that she was obliged to become a duchess, supported by Mr. Carhan's mother. She said that if this continued, she would send a formal complaint to the Duke's family and ask him to bring her son to reason. Lilia noted that the dark-haired girl does not care how the family will treat Carchan. She is concerned about her own desires. Then she remembered Stella's words of encouragement and laughed as she showed the guest the invitation sent to her from Duke Avantheon's mansion. The dark-haired girl screamed that it was stolen. Lily replied that taking something that did not belong to her was the manner of a guest. Lilia clarified that she remembers how the Delot family stole a sketch of a carriage, which the designer of the Baldin family had been working on for a long time. She added that she would never forgive the Delot family for this, and loudly announced to the servants that it was time for the guests to leave. Malek and Francis took the indignant Lady Stella and her maid by the arms and led Lady Lily out of the chambers. They forced the guest and her governess into the carriage and informed the coachman that they could go. Stella leaned out of the carriage window and shouted that she would next come to this palace as a duchess. This was watched by Lily, who thought that the dark-haired girl was acting like a child. She concluded that she wanted to listen to Lady Stella, wondering what she would say, but the meeting turned out to be a waste of time. In the administration of the Imperial Palace, Henri Baldin was poring over papers when an assistant knocked on his door. She said that the Marquis had handed over documents that needed to be worked out until tomorrow. The guy said that he would do everything. Left alone, Henry leaned wearily back in his chair and wondered why the Marquis had begun to throw work at him and ignore him. The young man remembered how once the boss called him and announced that his son and sister Henry had quarreled. The Marquis advised the boy to keep an eye on his younger sister so that no strange articles would arise in the newspapers. At that second, Henry realized that Mr. Evanthion and Lady Lily were the same, so he would die of overwork, if only his sister could do it. Returning to his office, Lilia's brother concluded that Mr. Carcon would not get away with anything, but the secret documents found by Henry will wait for a special moment when he can make a real splash. Henry drew attention to the photo of Lily, which was in the photo frame, among the stacks of papers on the desktop. He ironed the photo, said that he was very worried about his sister, and advised her to eat well because she had lost a lot of weight after Richard. In the castle of the Baldin family, the maids helped the mistress prepare to meet the family of Lord Evanthion. Lilia asked to give her a dress of a faint color and to gather her hair in her hairstyle, because this is her first meeting with Carcon's parents. When they finished their work, the servants opened their mouths in admiration at the realization of how beautiful their mistress was. The girl thanked the maids for their help and asked them to warn her parents that she would return for dinner. Lilia thought that she had not seen her brother for a long time. The governess explained that he came home late at night and left early in the morning. The lady replied that it was very strange because her brother always left work on time and promised that she would definitely visit her brother later. Mr. Carhan couldn't take his eyes off Lady Lily, who got out of the carriage and was heading towards him. The young man thanked her for coming. She handed him a bouquet of flowers and said that she was grateful for the invitation. Carcon noted that he had never received flowers before. Lilia laughed and replied that she was also giving flowers to a man for the first time in her life. The girl recalled that the guy gave her flowers when he came to her home, so this bouquet is her gratitude. Carcon led the guest inside the mansion and said that his father had left on urgent business, so today she would only meet with the owner of this house. The girl thought that the young man was more worried now than when he came to visit her home. Carcon invited Lilia to enter the room, but she fell into a stupor and panicked that his mother would pour tea on her for seducing her son, who had a fiancé. Lilia imagined Carcon's mother throwing a wad of money at her and demanding that the girl break up with her son immediately. The girl realized that there was no way back. It was time to go into the room, where she met the kind and smiling Duchess. The woman wondered if the journey had been too difficult and apologized that they had not been able to send a carriage for the guest. Lilia was surprised by the warm welcome, but she did not stop worrying, looked at Carcon, thinking that nothing would happen because he was nearby. The guest cheered up and thanked for the invitation, adding that it was a pleasure to meet her. The girl noticed that the Duchess was carefully examining her necklace, but after a moment, the woman introduced herself. She said that she had heard a lot of good things about the Baldin family and invited the girl to sit down. Lilia sat down on the sofa and fixed a puzzled look at Carcon, who did not sit down, but remained standing next to him. It seemed to the girl that he was covered with drops of sweat, then she whispered why he continued to stand. Livetta Evanthion told her son to sit down as well, and Lily thought that Carhan must be very worried. The guest drew attention to the fact that today the guy behaves differently than usual. Suddenly she remembered that she had prepared a gift for the Duchess, which was intended for the imperial family. She decided to give a gift to an important person. Lilia explained that this wine is produced by her family, and this year it turns 100 years old. The Duchess said it was an expensive gift, and she would gladly accept it. Then she suddenly said that she had heard that the lovers were already in a relationship at the time of their first meeting. The Duchess asked the guest how she met Carcon. The girl smiled because she was expecting this question. She thought that she needed to convince Livetta Evanthion that the love relationship with her son was real, because she would not just give up on the Delot family. In addition, there was talk about engagement. Lily could not think of a way to achieve this. At that moment, Karkan took her hand, the girl felt the strength of his support, and confidently told the story of their acquaintance. She explained that she and Karhan had met at a banquet and fell in love at first sight, but these words did not impress the Duchess. She asked if Lady Baldwin knew that the Evanthion family was in talks about their engagement to Lady Delot. Lady Livetta said that she deliberately delayed this moment because something bothered her. Lily couldn't understand why the Duchess had chosen her as her future daughter-in-law. Lady Livetta explained that Lady Stella had a difficult character, but at that time she was the most suitable candidate. The Duchess explained that a man from the Evanthion family was worthy of a companion from the best family. She concluded that she was glad that she listened to her intuition and postponed the engagement, because thanks to this, her son was able to meet a beautiful lady. The Duchess added that she was glad that the breakup with Stella Delata was going smoothly, then asked the couple when the engagement ceremony was planned. Lilia mentally replied that since they were supposed to be located at the end of the contract, the engagement was a difficult matter. Karkan sensed that Lilia was in turmoil, so he decided to reply that it would be difficult to set an engagement date quickly. The young master clarified that Lady Baldwin's engagement to Mr. Tertian had not yet been completely dissolved. The girl noticed that the guy's hands were trembling, and Lady Livetta replied that she did not know it, but hoped that everything would be resolved as soon as possible. The woman said with a smile that such a wonderful lady should be married at the first opportunity. Duchess Evanthion said that she really liked Lady Baldwin. For some reason, the girl was very alarmed by these words. We are talking about such an important matter as the engagement of the heir to the family, but she is trying to arrange everything as quickly as possible. In addition, from the very beginning of their acquaintance, the Duchess has never looked at her own son. Probably she does not care about him. The Duchess of Evanthion, a businessman, tries to sell the goods as quickly as possible before their value falls. Suddenly, the girl plucked up the courage and replied that since the conversation turned to engagement, it would definitely take place this year. The girl replied that she planned to raise this issue after the breakup of her last engagement. The guest added that she was hospitably welcomed at the ducal mansion, so she will pay special attention to the wishes of the Duchess of Evanthion. Lady Livetta replied that it would be wonderful and apologized for her impatience. She explained that Lady Lily really liked her. The guest thanked the Duchess for her kind words. Suddenly, Lady Livetta rose from her seat and apologized for leaving first, for she had other things to do. The Duchess said that she hopes the guest will feel at home here. Only at the end, as she left the room, did the Duchess cast a sinister glance at her son. When the doors slammed shut, Karkan began to examine the hand that had been lying on Lilia's arm throughout the conversation. Lady Baldwin's words sounded in his head that the engagement ceremony was planned to be held this year. In the next second, Lily screamed in panic and explained that she was not ready for the question of engagement. I had to say that the couple would get engaged within a year, but you need to come up with an excuse to postpone it as long as possible. The girl added that it was necessary to come up with something plausible and asked Karkan if he had any ideas. The guy didn't answer. Instead, he offered to show the ducal mansion. While touring the mansion, Karhan noted that there is nothing special about it compared to the castle of the Baldwin family. Lilia smiled and replied that the mansion is very beautiful. It has an ancient atmosphere. The girl saw the maid spot Mr. Evanthion, turned around abruptly, and hurried the other way to get out of sight. Lady Baldwin realized that her guesses were correct. The young duke was indeed being shunned by the servants, and his mother was not looking at him. She realized with regret that Karkan was like a stranger in this place who was not welcome here at all. Passing by a large painting, the girl stopped and began to examine it. Karkan explained that this family portrait was painted when he was on the battlefield. Lily recognized the guy depicted in the painting as Karhan's older brother. Rumor has it that Master Evanthion got rid of him. The girl clenched her fist in anger because she had already managed to recognize Karkan, so she did not understand how such false gossip could exist. Lilia suggested that the family itself forced the youngest son to become the heir, and society condemned him in vain. The girl remembered the expression on the man's face when he spoke with envy about the close relationship of the members of the Baldwin family. She used to assume that Karkan had a bad relationship with his family, but she did not think that everything was so bad. Lady Baldwin asked Karkan if there was any place where he could talk quietly in private. He was very surprised, but emotions did not prevent him from answering that his room should be suitable. When the young duke opened the door to his chambers, he instantly turned into a harmless teddy bear. He showed behind which door was the bedroom, and behind which was the study. Lady Baldwin pointed to another door and asked what was behind it. The guy replied embarrassedly that it was the pantry. The girl rounded her eyes because she could not imagine that there could be such a room in the chambers of the duke's heir. The guy invited the guest to sit down. She asked if Karhan was a restless child, Lily speculating after the Duchess's stern gaze on her son. Karkan smiled and replied that it was likely, because once in his childhood he locked himself in his study for the whole day and did not eat anything. The guy remembered how he was scolded because he was digging in the garden and scattering everything. Lilia looked at the interlocutor in shock. She asked if this could really make a small child a troublemaker. The girl told how she threw all her toys into the pond as a child. Lilia shared her memories of how often she scattered flour throughout the kitchen because she also wanted to cook. Once she made her father faint when he discovered children's drawings on the famous painting. The girl laughed at the memory of stealing her mother's sword to play with, then concluded that Karkan had been an angel as a child. Karkan was pleased with these words, and Lilia wondered why the Duchess was so harsh on her own son. The young man replied that it was because his mother considered him useless. Lilia objected and said that this was not the case. She said that if the guy is useless, then the rest of the people in this world are just garbage. The girl asked Karkan where else she could find such a kind person as him. The young man said that Lilia is the only person who thinks he is good. The young duke became darker than a cloud, and Lily sat down closer to him, looked into his face, and assured him that he was indeed a good man. The girl said that she was always told that she was good at understanding people, but Richard was an exception. Lily asked the guy not to say that anymore if he didn't want to question her insight. Karkan thought that he had always tried to be kind, but he began to believe that he had failed. Only after Lilia's words did he begin to change his mind. The girl concluded that the Duchess is solely to blame for this situation, because even in families, loved ones may not know each other really. The girl told the guy that if he needed help, he could contact him at any time. She would be happy to help. Karkan wondered why she was doing this for him. Lily replied that she was in the same boat with the young duke. At that moment, the guy thought that he was waiting for a different answer in vain, because he and Lady Baldwin were bound by a contract. The young man bowed his head doomedly and thought that, in fact, he was hiding the fact that his family did not recognize him as an heir. Karkan concluded it was time to admit that his parents had abandoned him and perhaps he would not fulfill his part of the contract. On the other hand, he is afraid to see disappointment in her eyes, because if the lady finds out about everything, she will begin to despise him and eventually leave. The guy decided that this could not be allowed, because after this he would not go, because he was already used to the warmth that Lady Baldwin gives. The visitor looked into Karkan's bedroom and noted that the room was quite small for the Duke's son. Lilia caught a glimpse of the box she had helped to choose and asked why the guy hadn't given her gift to anyone. The guy admitted that he bought the box because he wanted it for a long time. It's just that such things do not fit his appearance, so he said that it was for a gift. The girl replied that it was cute and offered to tell her when she needed to buy something again so that she could cover it in the store. Lilia noticed that in addition to the bouquet and the box, there were books about love and a box of chocolates in Karkan's room. The guest was pleasantly surprised that the guy kept everything she gave him. Lady Baldwin felt her heart flutter. She remembered that Richard Tertian threw away the bride's gifts when they got bored. Lilia noticed that Karkan was back in black clothes and asked why he wasn't wearing the outfits he had bought recently. The young man replied that it was not on purpose, and the girl asked Karkan to open the wardrobe with clothes. The girl decided that it was time to sort out the wardrobe of the fake lover and check if the clothes chosen together were in order. She looked at the jacket, asked how many years ago this thing was considered fashionable, and insistently asked not to wear it anymore. Suddenly, the girl paid attention to the buttons of her jacket. At that moment, Malik entered the room. He told the mistress that the time was late, so he had to go back. Lady Baldwin replied that he really had to go back. The young man said that he was escorting the guest. She replied that she would allow it, provided that he hid the old clothes as far as possible. Karkan promised that he would do so, then a couple of fake lovers came out on the porch. Lady Baldwin noticed Thesion near her carriage and said that she did not expect to meet him today. Mr. Avanthion's personal assistant replied that he had left the mansion for a short time, specifically to say goodbye to Lady Baldwin. Suddenly, Karkan threw his frock coat over Lilia's shoulders and said that the wind was very cold. The girl could freeze on the way home. She replied that this would not happen because she would ride in a carriage, but the young man did not seem to hear her. He said that the frock coat could be given back next time. Lilia noticed that the guy's cheeks were red with excitement and embarrassment. Karkan asked if the return of the thing could serve as a reason for their meeting again. For a moment, the girl was also worried, then agreed to give her coat back the next time they met. Karkan said that he did not want Lily to be blown out and began to wrap her in a frock coat more tightly. The girl thanked the young duke and mentally assumed that he had read about it in textbooks about love. Then she laughed because she realized how ridiculous it looked in the clothes of a guy with a strong build. The lady noticed that the carriage was watching the farewell, for two heads were peeping out from behind the column. Looking closer, she realized that it was a servant of the duchy, who was surprised that their master looked so happy for the first time. Lily thought this was the perfect opportunity to stir up rumors and ask the guy to move closer. The girl hugged the guy and wished him good night. This caused a storm of surprise among the peeping maids. When Lady Baldin left, Titian informed Master that it was time to return to the mansion. The young duke looked at the assistant in fright and said that his heart was aching. Tession replied that he didn't know that the master had a heart problem, but Karkan really blushed. He should call a doctor immediately. Sitting in the carriage, Liliu did not stop thinking about how warm Karkan's hands were. The girl understood that the relationship was negotiable, but the experiences were real. Experiencing them, anxiety appeared in her heart. She is morally hurt because the memories of her ex-fiancé sometimes return. Lilia is faced with the doubt that she will be able to build a relationship with someone again. She is afraid that in the end she will be hurt again. After a moment, the girl reassured herself that there was nothing to worry about because Mr. Avanthion did not love her. They are bound by a temporary contract. When it expires, the fake lovers will never see each other again. Lady Baldin recalled the Duchess's question about the date of engagement of her son and the new chosen one. The girl concluded that if their relationship develops, everything will only become more complicated. She caught herself thinking that when she met Karkan, her heart fluttered. She experienced tender feelings. Compared to the negative emotions Lilia experienced with Richard, she now feels good and calm. Since the ex-fiancé never agreed to break off the engagement, he probably has a plan. As the carriage drove along the street shrouded in the darkness of the evening, the girl wondered if Richard had any weaknesses. It dawned on Lily that she could put pressure on them and force her ex-lover to break off the engagement. Meanwhile, Stella Delata trashed her room in a rage, shouting the name of Lady Lily Baldin. The dark-haired girl wondered why this ubiquitous conceit stood in her way again. She remembered how a few hours ago the Duchess had invited her to the mansion to inform her that a more suitable bride had been found for her son. Lady Lavetta noted that she was very glad that the engagement of the heir to the Avanteon family and Lady Stella did not take place. The young lady forced a smile and asked if the Duchess was talking about Lady Lily Baldin. Lady Avanthion ignored the question and said that she would tell the dark-haired girl's father herself. Stella panicked, mumbling on the Duchess's name and begging her to wait with a decision, but she silently got up and left the room. The girl sank to the floor of her room in tears. She asked herself how to look into the eyes of those around her now. She was sure that people would laugh at her because there was so much talk about her engagement to Mr. Avanthion. The girl regretfully concluded that she had missed her last chance to defeat this disgusting bastard. The governess knocked at the door, and Lady Stella was indignant that she had asked not to disturb her. The maid replied that a guest had come to the lady and demanded an audience. The intruder was Mr. Richard Tercian, and Lady Stella wondered why he had come to see her. The guy replied that he would get straight to the point and said that he wanted Lady Lily and Mr. Karkan to break up. The dark-haired girl asked the guest how he was going to achieve this. He told how he had recently met the Duchess of Avanthion at an event. She said that she had heard that Mr. Richard was going to break off the engagement. The guy was indignant that this was a lie and added that he did not expect the Duchess to believe dirty gossip. The woman pretended to be discouraged and replied that she had heard it personally from Lady Lily. The young man mentally noted that even the Duchess was already involved in this deception. It suddenly dawned on him that this was not a game. Richard decided that he did not have time to wait for his father to do something, because Lilia really intended to break off the relationship. Suddenly he remembered Stella Delata and decided that he needed to team up with her in order to start acting. The guest said that he knew that Lady Delata was in the same situation as him and suggested that he was not mistaken when he decided to come to her. The guy explained that he perfectly understands the girl's feelings because he was also confronted with the fact when he was informed about the breakup of the engagement. Richard assumed that she was angry and felt betrayed, and promised that everything would return to its place if the plan succeeded. The guy promised that Lady Stella would again become the bride of the heir to the duchy, but she doubted that Richard's plan would succeed. She knew that Lady Baldwin was not the kind of person who would stand idly by, but on the other hand, the game was worth the candle. Stella decided that it was worth trying to do something rather than sit and wait for the insufferable upstart to take everything away from her. The dark-haired girl asked what Richard's plan was and what she should do. Hearing these words, the guy smiled conspiratorially and his eyes sparkled. The next day in the gun shop, Francis groaned furiously that he would not give up his sword under any circumstances. Malik tried to calm him down and reason by explaining that his sword looked like a piece of scrap metal from a distance. Lady Lily was indignant at how stubborn her knight was and asked the clerk to bring the best sword of the shop. Through tears, the boy said that this sword was given to Lady Baldwin when he began to serve as her knight. Malik sighed irritably, and Francis snapped angrily that such a callous man could not understand his feelings. The lady told the knight that the competition for the selection of escort knights would begin soon. Lady Lily suggested that during the competition, the old sword could break and the owner could be injured or seriously injured. She handed Francis a new sword and told him to consider it a gift from her and wished him good luck in the competition. The lady expressed the hope that the knights serving her would win the qualifying competitions again. When Francis agreed to accept the gift and promised to win the competition, the mistress asked Malik if he needed a new sword. The guy replied that he had recently changed weapons because he was rational, unlike his comrade. Lady Lily laughed at the skirmish that broke out between the knights again and happened to see that there were cufflinks on the counter. The seller explained that these cufflinks contain high-strength gemstones that will protect the wearer from bad luck. Then the girl asked to pack them and several other selected goods. As Lady Lily, accompanied by the knights, was leaving the gun shop, they met small children on the way. The girl was crying because she lost a coin on the road, and her brother shouted that her mother gave it to them so that they could buy bread. Francis looked at the children and decided that they were children from the slums who could live on this bread for a whole week. The knight tried to help the children, but changed his mind because his rash actions could harm the reputation of the mistress. Suddenly, Lady Lily went up to the children and handed them a gold coin, asking if it was something they had lost. The girl objected because her coin was copper and this was gold. Then the lady made a serious look and admitted that she had taken the coin. Lady Lily said she wanted to exchange the girl's coin for another. The children explained that they needed to buy white bread. They asked the mistress if they had enough money, and Lady Lily replied that if it was not enough, they could contact her. The children asked if the lady would come with them, and in response the girl took the little girl by the hand. Francis watched this, who came up with the idea that perhaps money is so loved by the Lord because it helps those in need. The guy thought that he was proud to serve as a knight for such a kind lady. Lady Lily brought the children to the store with bakery products, their eyes rounded and their mouths open from the wide assortment. The children asked where the white bread was. Their mother really needed it to erase the drawing. Lilia pointed the children to the right shelf and mentally suggested that if the picture could be erased with bread, then it was drawn with charcoal. The girl thought that being fond of drawing, living in a poor area, is a difficult matter. At that moment, Malik called out to the mistress and said that he had bought everything he needed. Then the girl called the guys to her. She reminded the girl of the moment of falling on the road in search of a coin. Lady Baldwin took an ointment and bandages from the bag that Malik had brought, promising that she would treat the girl's wound. When she had finished with the girl's knee, Lady Lily said that the boys could come here whenever they were hungry and take what they wanted. They said they didn't have that much money. Lady assured them that there was nothing to worry about. The girl happily reported that the boss allowed them to take everything for free. She concealed that she gave the owner a decent amount of money at the entrance and offered the children to eat what they chose. Eating the buns, the children admired how delicious everything was and added that it was a pity that Tommy was not with them. The girl was wary and thought how good it was that she did not rush and did not give them money because it could have been worse. Lilia remembered that often people who ask for help from nobles use small children to ask for more money. The girl concluded that she had no idea what kind of guardians these children had, so if she had given money, she might have caused trouble for the children. She decided that the only thing she could do now was not to leave these children hungry. Lady Balden turned to her boss and said that from now on she would buy all the bread here if she promised to give it as a gift to the poor. The owner of the store nodded enthusiastically, and Lilia held out a business card with the seal of the Balden family. She said that she would later send her man here to discuss the details. Upon returning home, Lilia met her brother and noted that he had returned early today. Henry said something about his sister's next meeting with Mr. Avanthion, but then hesitated and replied that he had finished business early today. He asked his sister where she had come from. Lilia replied that she had business at the market. Then there was an awkward silence. The pause was interrupted by Henry, who offered to take a walk. His sister was happy, but did not yet know that further conversation would not go well. Walking in the garden, silence reigned between brother and sister, and at last Henry decided to ask Lily if she was eating well. The girl answered positively and asked a similar question to her brother. He replied that he also eats well. The dialogue was broken by silence again. Henry asked how the meeting with the heir of the Avanthion family went. Lilia thought that her brother was interested and worried about her sister's relationship with Karkan, and happily replied that everything went perfectly. She clarified that of course she does not meet with the young man every day. Nevertheless, their relationship is strong and stable. Suddenly, the girl realized that her brother was worried not only about his relationship with Mr. Avanthion, but also about his sister. He does not want her to start a relationship with a bad man again. The girl was flattered by such care. But she knew that Karkan was a good man, and all the rumors about him were lies. Suddenly, Henry said that he could not say for sure yet, but it seemed to him that Mr. Karkan was not as bad as people said he was. Henry said that he had been unnecessarily rude to his sister's new chosen one. Lily could not believe that her brother would be the first to admit his guilt. He added that this does not mean at all that he was initially wrong in everything, and said that he would definitely revise all the documents. Henry then said that if his sister really liked Mr. Avanthion, there was nothing he could do. Lily handed Henry a packet and said that she had bought a gift to cheer him up, as her brother had been very busy lately. The gift turned out to be a pen with a long base, which does not load the brush so much when writing. The girl said that she notices how her brother worries about her, so she made this present so that he also knows that he is worried about and cared for. Henry looked at Lily gratefully and asked if she had had dinner. After hearing a negative answer, he offered to do it together. The girl concluded that she has many unresolved problems, but thanks to today's walk, she became closer to her brother, which she is very happy about. The next day, at the ducal mansion, Tishan was preparing Mr. Karkan for the Count Balden exhibition. The young duke received an invitation, but knew nothing about fine art, so he asked Thesion to help. The young duke's assistant asked various questions about the origin of the paintings and their contents. Almost all the answers were correct, so Thesion concluded that the master would be able to answer even tricky questions. The guy said that the master was ready to go to the exhibition and wished him good luck. Count Cliff Balden welcomed Mr. Avanthion to his castle, and the boy thanked him for the invitation. The man offered to walk together and look around while he had free time. The exhibition hall looked just amazing. There were many outstanding works of art. Count Cliff noted that he had invested a lot of time and effort in this event, so he sincerely hopes that the guests will like it. Karkan replied that the Count's insight was amazing and thanked him again for the invitation. The man smiled and pointed to the painting, asking the young duke if he knew it. Mr. Karkan confidently replied that he had never seen this painting in person before, but had seen it in books. Thesion was glad that his grace had done a good job, but he was worried that Lady Balden's father did not say anything about it. After a few seconds of silence, the man broke into a smile and said that he had not expected such a great knowledge of art. The assistant told his master to continue in the same vein. Then he became bold and asked the Count his opinion about the painting. The man was amazed that someone asked his opinion because even his family is not so interested in his passion for art. The Count began his story with great enthusiasm, but the answer was very long, and then he asked if he had tired Mr. Karkan with his chatter. The man explained that it was the first time he had met a person with similar interests, so he did not notice how time flew by. Karhan said that he was not bored because Count Cliff told interesting things. The man thanked Mr. Avanthion for his praise, but after a moment he was very embarrassed. He realized that this was only the second meeting, and he already liked the young man very much. The Count scolded himself for being such a simpleton and told the guy that the next section of the exhibition was devoted to abstract drawings. The man led Mr. Karhan to an abstract painting, where the object is expressed with the help of simple elements and colors. The Count asked the guy what he thought about this exhibit. Karhan replied that he was impressed by soft and warm colors. The young Duke said that she aroused tender feelings in him and somehow conjured up memories of Lady Lily. The Count said that lovers liked the painting very much and suggested that the artist dedicated it to the theme of love. The man concluded that he really liked today's conversation and suggested that Mr. Karkan meet more often. Tizian was shocked when the Count asked the young man if he liked music. Mr. Avanthion replied positively. He added that he often listened to something at home. Then the Count admired what a versatile personality the guy had. The man offered to attend the orchestra's performance at the next meeting, but the young Duke was not happy. He understood that there would be much more to remember in music than in art, and it would be easy to make a mistake. The guy was determined and wanted to refuse, because last time he could not find the strength to reject the Count's offer. Karkan only opened his mouth to answer, but the Count said that he was going to call his daughter there. At the same moment, Mr. Karkan agreed, and the Count noted how wonderful it was that they had similar interests. Suddenly, a subordinate came up to Graf as to the director of the exhibition and said something in his ear. The man apologized and said that he needed to move away. Karkan replied that everything was fine. He would look around for now. The Count asked not to go anywhere because he would be back soon. When Count Cliff left, the first thing Thesion did indignantly asked his master was what he was thinking about when he agreed. Mr. Karkan mentally replied that he was going to refuse, but when he heard the name of Lady Balden, he could not help but accept the invitation. At that moment, the guy noticed some unknown people looking at him and asking if it was really Mr. Avanthion in front of them. Karkan remembered how Count Cliff had said that there could be no bad people among art lovers, but for some reason he did not dare to utter a word. One of the aristocrats asked if the young man would not say a word, or if old people like them were not worthy of his attention. Karkan thought that the main thing now was not to panic. He remembered Lilia, who said that in such a situation it was best to smile. He tried to force a polite smile, but the aristocrats were indignant that he was mocking them. They called him arrogant and arrogant. The young Duke wondered why it didn't work. Then the aristocrat asked what had brought the young man here, whether he had awakened an interest in art. Karkan said that he was invited. The old man asked who invited him here. Tezion was furious and mentally replied to the aristocrat that he would now be happy to invite him to the battlefield. Hearing the name of Count Balden from Master Avanthion, the old aristocrats began to whisper among themselves. They were indignant that such a bandit could be invited by the director of the exhibition himself, because he invites only those who are sincerely interested in art. The old men shouted that the young man had stolen the invitation because such a bloodthirsty fighter could not love painting. Tezion became worried and asked Mr. Karkan if everything was all right, but he was calm and replied with an indifferent face that he was already used to it. Suddenly a voice was heard that offered to test the young man's knowledge of art, if anyone had any doubts. A gray-haired man stepped out of the crowd. It turned out to be Councillor Glosia, who had great influence in the duchy, although he was a member of a small faction. In the Duchy of Avanthion, there are two dominant forces. One supports the eldest son, Blade. The other wants to make a puppet out of Karkan. Tezion thought that this meeting was not accidental. He could get support from the advisor. The gray-haired man coldly greeted the fashion duke. Then he suggested that since the guy was personally invited by the director of the exhibition, then his knowledge of art was unusually deep. Councillor Glosia decided to make sure of this and asked him to tell the story of the painting that hung nearby. Karkan remembered a page from an art textbook that Thesion had given him and calmly replied that he knew little about the exhibit. He said that the painting was painted 300 years ago, but the author is unknown. Initially, the idea was considered the fall of a real kingdom. Later, the motive turned out to be fictional. The aristocrats were shocked, and Karhan continued to talk about the artist's use of calm colors and light brushstrokes. The elderly nobles could not believe their ears, as if they had returned to the time of studying at the academy and found themselves at a lecture on the history of art. The aristocrats could not believe that the young duke was so knowledgeable about art, and concluded that he was lucky to have probably seen this painting before. Suddenly, Karkan heard familiar voices. One, a woman, was talking about the subjectivity of abstraction, and the other was yawning and complaining that he was bored. In a moment, the young master was able to make out the silhouettes of Lady Lily and the knights accompanying her. Lilia did not expect to see her fake lover at the exhibition. She asked what Karkan was doing here. But the young man did not have time to answer, as Lady Baldin was instantly surrounded by aristocrats. They noted that they had not seen Lady Lily since the dinner party. The girl smiled feignedly and replied that she was glad that they managed to meet again. Suddenly, she turned her attention to Karkan, and from his sad face, she realized that something had happened between him and the elderly nobles. The girl asked what they had been talking about before her arrival. The aristocrat pointed to the guy and said that this scoundrel claimed to have been invited by the director. Lady Baldin said that she hadn't actually heard anything about it. Then the man of noble birth replied that he was right. The aristocrats again began to whisper that the guy stole an invitation from someone because he was seen at this exhibition for the first time. They had concluded that the young master had a sinister appearance. It was easy to assume that he was up to something. The girl thought that the nobles were going too far, although no one could be sure that Mr. Avanthion had an invitation. Lilia concluded that a harmless visit to an art gallery is not a crime. There is nothing suspicious about it. Lilia wondered why society was so unfair and prejudiced against Karkan, and did not want to understand his true intentions. The girl decided that if this continued, she would have to take Karkan's side. When she walked over and stood beside her, not only the young master was surprised, but also the elderly aristocrats. They indignantly asked what this meant and what Lady Lily's relationship with Mr. Avanthion was. The girl boldly replied that they were a couple of people in love. Then the elderly nobles began to shout that it was impossible. Lady Lily made a sad face and announced to everyone that she was so sad because her chosen one had been misunderstood. The young man's cheeks turned red as the girl said that the young duke was very sensitive and adored art like no one else. Lilia said that Karkan is very reserved. For this reason, many people do not understand him. The young duke apologized to Councillor Glacia, saying that he had been rude because he was very nervous. The man replied that he was also partly to blame, because first he should have greeted the interlocutor. At this moment, Lily tugged at her fake lover's arm and said that it was the perfect time to use the secret weapon. The girl whispered to the young man about the puppy, and he smiled. Seeing the young duke's sweet and charming smile, the elderly nobles admitted that they had jumped to conclusions about the guy. Lilia noted that she was incredibly happy that they finally figured everything out. In conclusion, she repeated her father's words that there are no bad people among art lovers. The reminder of these words touched the old nobles, and they preferred to retreat, saying that they had detained 2 young men. Councillor Glacia also headed for the exit, saying that they needed to walk around and visit the other exhibition halls. When Karkan was left alone with Lily, he thought that he still had a lot to learn. Karkan thought that he had already changed a lot, but today he needed Lady Lily's help again. The guy mentally called himself pathetic, and Lilia seemed to get into his head, found out what he was thinking. Lady Baldin advised him to be more patient with himself, because it is difficult to change a personality that has long been formed. Lilia added that the young man did a great job today because he managed to dispel the bad impression of himself from other people. Tessian happily added that the master had done a really good job and had been able to impress Councillor Glacia. At that moment, a breathless Count Cliff appeared nearby. He was very surprised to see his daughter and asked what she was doing here. Lilia replied that she wanted to visit the exhibition and asked since, and even without her knowledge, he became close to Mr. Avanthion. Without waiting for an answer, she menacingly asked when her father had managed to send the guy an invitation to the exhibition. The Count began to beg him not to tell anything to his mother and brother, otherwise he would be punished as a traitor. The man was in a panic. Suddenly, the young duke began to explain that on the day he was invited to the mansion, he asked the Count for a favor. The Count confirmed all that had been said, that the young duke himself had asked that everyone should send an invitation. The man said that he would go and talk to the rest of the guests of the exhibition. Then he winked at Karkan, quietly thanked him for his help, and promised to see him at the orchestra's performance. When the Count left, Lilia asked if her father had done anything. Karkan honestly replied that they were looking at the paintings. The girl wondered if the young duke had had time to inspect everything, but he replied that he was distracted by talking to the elderly aristocrats. Then Lilia offered to continue exploring the exhibition halls with her, and Karkan readily agreed. Walking around the exhibition and looking at various paintings, Lilia stopped near one of them. She said that this painting gives a pleasant and warm atmosphere. Tender and soft feelings emanate from it. Karkan was incredibly happy that someone shared his feelings. Suddenly, the girl admitted that the painting reminded her of Mr. Avanthion. The guy remembered the words of Count Cliff that this picture was painted on the theme of love, and lovers especially like it. Leaving the exhibition, Lady Lily noticed a girl at the entrance who did not have enough money for a ticket. The girl recalled that the exhibition was originally conceived as a free event so that everyone could enjoy art. Many aristocrats were against it, so they had to set a minimum price for admission, but still not all people have enough money. Lilia asked Karkan to stop, approached the guide, and asked him to inform the girl, who was counting the missing funds, that she was a special visitor. The guide told the poor girl that she was the 1,000th visitor to this exhibition and fell under a special promotion, so the entrance was free. The moment the happy poor girl walked through the door, Karhan thought that Lilia was just an incredible person. She does not hesitate to help people in need, but she does not forget about those who are nearby. Mr. Evanthion concluded that he wanted to spend as much time as possible with Lady Balden. Suddenly, the girl's irritated face appeared in front of the young man's eyes, which tore him out of his own thoughts. The guy was taken aback, and Lilia explained that he did not respond to her calls for a long time. Karhan assured her that everything was fine, then she asked if he was drinking alcohol. Thesion, standing behind the master, had barely begun to say that the master never drinks alcohol when Karkan interrupted him. The young duke firmly and loudly stated that he had a positive attitude towards alcohol. Lilia replied that it was great and suggested that we have dinner at the inn because they serve excellent fruit wine. The young man replied that he had no plans, so he would gladly keep her company. Thesion whispered to Karkan that he did not drink, and the young duke replied that he had decided to start today. The assistant only sighed heavily in response. When the young people entered the noisy establishment, Lady Lily assumed that Mr. Evanthion wondered how the girl knew about this place. Lilia explained that her parents always told her that expensive things are not necessarily good, and advised her to try everything in life. She announced that if the guy was uncomfortable, then he could go to another institution. He assured that everything was fine, just a little surprised. Karkan added that he liked the cheerful atmosphere of this tavern and smiled. The girl thought that when the young duke smiled, he looked completely different, and she felt a kind of tremor in her soul. The waitress came to the table, rattled the greeting on the machine, and asked what the visitors would order. Karkan turned his face, and she saw how handsome he was, instantly changed her intonation, warmed up and broke into a smile. The girl shyly straightened her hair behind her ear and asked if it was the first time the young man had visited this institution and if she could tell him anything. The waitress pointed out to the guy the lower sets on the menu because they are especially tasty and began to list the dishes that she personally recommends. Lilia wondered if the waitress was not afraid of Karkan and realized that compared to what it was before, the boy's expression had become softer. Lady Balden concluded that it was definitely good, but she felt a strange feeling come over her inside. Karkan thought that Lilia was somehow thoughtful and silent, so he decided that it was worth talking to her and asking what she liked about the menu. The obsessive waitress continued to hang around and politely recommend dishes. He thought that first he needed to get rid of her. He politely thanked me for my help and said that he would think about his order again. Lily saw a thirst for praise in Karhan's eyes. He looked like a puppy waiting for enthusiastic words. The girl noted that the guy is good at refusing. He explained that all this is thanks to her lessons. Lily protested and clarified that it was thanks to Karkan's efforts, then concluded that the young duke no longer needed her. At these words, the young duke's heart sank to his heels. He indignantly asked why the girl was saying such a thing. She replied that she doubted that there was anything to teach the young man, especially since there were obvious successes. When the waitress brought the ordered dishes and drinks, the couple proceeded to the meal, and Lilia thought that Karhan had quickly become drunk. This surprised the girl, because the guy assured her that he had a positive attitude towards alcohol. Lilia offered to leave the establishment, but the drunken Karkan assured that everything was fine. He thanked that she advised such a good establishment. The girl laughed in response, because in fact the guy did not look well and suggested that he not lean on wine anymore, but drink only beer. When looking at the cheerful Karkan, the girl thought that only with him she felt free and happy. She thought that initially she was not going to get closer to the guy, but they were united by a contract, otherwise they would have remained just good friends. Lilia thought came to her that when she thought about parting with Karkan, she felt unbearably sad. The young man broke the silence and said that thanks to the meeting with Lady Balden, he learned to express his opinion and refuse something. Karkan recalled the recent situation and noted that when he finds himself in front of the crowd, he is still very nervous. He complained that he himself does not realize how he freezes in place because he is afraid to say something wrong or spoil the atmosphere, and then he gets lost and does not know what to do. The girl mentally noted that the young duke was still worried about talking to the elderly, high-ranking gentleman. Lilia thought that although she thought Karkan was doing well, there were times when he still needed help. Lady Balden said that she maintains a conversation with any interlocutor if she asks him clarifying questions. She decided to demonstrate to the young duke how it worked and asked Francis to come up to her for a minute. The lady asked what he had been doing the night before, and the knight replied that he had met his friend. Lady Balden noted that this was interesting and asked which one. The guy explained that his friend used to work in the residence. Francis said that yesterday this friend suggested going to a restaurant. The mistress was feigned surprise and asked what kind of restaurant it was. The knight replied that the one that had recently been built on 3rd Street. The guy was so carried away by the story that he got excited and began to shout indignantly that this stub was late, ate everything, and then said that he had forgotten his wallet at home. Francis shouted that he had not yet told everything about this bastard, but Malik led him away from the table. Lady Lily explained that she adhered to this method. The girl explained that in this case, the leading role in the conversation passes to the interlocutor, and communication takes place naturally. The young duke thanked him for this advice, and the girl said that she was always happy to help and offered to clink glasses. After a while, a couple of fake lovers emptied more than one bottle of beer. It was already dark, and Lady Lily could not take her tipsy eyes off Karkan's face. She wondered why she still wouldn't get used to the fact that the companion had such a wonderful appearance. The girl noticed how Karkan was holding a mug of beer and thought that the guy had large palms. She noted that in his hands the mug seemed like a toy. Lilia could not restrain herself and said that the guy had large hands. Karkan was very embarrassed, and the girl explained that she had naturally small palms. She picked up her mug and asked her to note that the dishes were the same, but they seemed large in her hands and small in the young duke's hands. The girl asked to compare the palms and noted that Karkan's hand was twice the size of her hand and it looked rougher, probably because of the calluses from the sword. Lilia was so drunk that she did not hesitate to ask to touch the young man's palm. Karkan was numb with shock and blushed, not knowing how to react, but after a few seconds of hesitation, he held out his hand to Lilia. The guy did not understand what was happening because a pleasant warmth began to spread through the parts of the hand that the girl was touching. The young duke noted that Lady Lily's palm was so small and delicate compared to his. Suddenly, the guy abruptly pulled his hand away and asked to stop because his heart hurts. He added that it seemed that his heart was about to jump out of his chest. Then he opened a small box of pills and took one out of it. Lilia asked irritably why Karkan hadn't told her anything earlier and how long he had been taking medicine for heart pain. The young man explained that the doctors said to take these pills only when the heart begins to hurt. The girl thought that there was no need to invite the guy to this institution and even offer to drink alcohol. Karkan hastened to calm her down and clarified that the last time she had a chest pain was when Lady Lily visited the mansion. Lilia said that if he had warned her, they would have gone elsewhere. The young man replied that his heart hurts for the first time since the last time. He assured that alcohol can be drunk, just in small doses, and the girl sighed loudly and concluded that if something goes wrong, it will turn into a big problem. Lily pushed the glasses aside and said that there was enough alcohol for today. Then she asked if the exact cause of the heart pains had been investigated. The young duke replied in the negative and explained that the doctors could not establish the exact cause. The girl suggested that the young man be examined by a family doctor because he is an experienced specialist. He used to serve in the imperial family. Karkan was flattered by such care, replied that there was no need to worry, he was fine, and thought to himself that Lilia was a kind and good person. The guy smiled embarrassedly and reminded him that when he visited the mansion, Evanthion had called him a good person, which made him very happy. Karkan timidly began the story of his childhood, that he grew up in a family with strict morals. He always wanted to get the approval of his parents. Mr. Evanthion clarified that he tried many times and tried for a long time, but it was all in vain. Once having heard random praise from maids in childhood, he became as if possessed. Thus, he stepped on the path of his own death because prejudices about him grew and it was difficult to get rid of them. Karkan said that he considered himself a failure because all efforts were in vain. He explained that he had no choice but to accept the general misunderstanding. The young duke added that at that moment he made a decision that he would become a bad person for everyone. However, for Lady Lily, she wanted to always remain good. The girl could not imagine that her words would affect Karkan so much. Lady Baldwin realized that, compared to the past, his words made his heart flutter and beat faster. The girl wished the guy to move confidently in this direction, asking him to be even kinder to her in the future. She clarified that the young master was already doing it perfectly, but he should try better. At that moment, the maid was hurrying to meet the stranger in the cloak. He asked if she had previously passed on information about the heir to Evanteon for Stella Delata. The girl confirmed this and said that she had heard that the unknown person would pay more, so she came to meet him. He replied that it was true, but the payment depended on the value of the information that the maid would provide. She was frightened and barely found the strength to say that Lord Karkan was temporarily the heir of the Avantian line. The informant added that she heard about this when she served the Duchess, and an unknown person asked to clarify what she meant. The girl explained that the Duke's eldest son was hiding abroad. Because he had done business, his brother became the heir instead of him. She added that it turns out his refusal of the title is temporary. When the true heir returns, he will get his place back. An unknown person threw a bag of money at the informant and noted that he liked what he had just heard. The girl asked if there would be any errands, but in response he told her to clean up. An unknown person took off his hood. It turned out to be Mr. Richard Tercian, who thought of his former fiancé with a smirk. She was deliberately looking for someone of higher status, but the person she trusted has been deceiving for a long time, but does not appear to be anything. The next day, the governess, Lady Baldwin, reported that she had brought the laundry and asked if it belonged to Mr. Evanteon. She also said that lately, when the mistress returned to the castle after a long absence, she was all glowing. Lady Baldwin was embarrassed, and the maid said that she hoped that everything would work out for Mistress and Mr. Evantheon. As Lady Lily looked at the washed frock coat that the governess had brought, she plunged into memories. She remembered how Karkan had put it on the girl's shoulders when he had escorted her from the mansion to the carriage. This was followed by the next memory of them sitting in the tavern and drinking together. Then she could not take her eyes off him, because his expression and eyes were dazzling that evening. Each memory of their meeting causes a pleasant thrill in the soul and, like a sprout, sprouts in the heart. The girl thought that all the exciting feelings associated with the last meeting could just be imagined because she was drunk. Lilia thought that she should not forget the true purpose of these pseudo-dates. She concluded that she had taught Karkan everything she could, and now she had to keep her distance. Violetta Baldwin noted that it was incredible to gather the whole family at one table. Cliff Baldwin decided to support his wife. He replied that they rarely get to have dinner together because the eldest son is constantly busy at work. Henry announced the news that he would soon get a promotion, and his father exclaimed that it couldn't be too soon. The guy explained that the boss had been throwing a lot of work on him lately, so, unwittingly, he had achieved excellent results. His father and sister began to congratulate Henry. His mother confirmed this, and then announced that he had received a proposal to marry. The young man asked to reject it, and the Countess objected that she did not even finish. He replied that there was no point in listening further. Violetta Baldwin exclaimed that her son was a real, stubborn man. He did not want to marry or inherit the family business. The woman confessed that she had always hoped that Lily would bring a worthy suitor into the house, and called the name of Mr. Evantheon with disgust. Graf Cliff said that he was insanely worried about who to hand over the management of the family business, and offered to have a third child. His wife angrily asked who would give birth to him, then the Count offered to hire a professional manager. Lilia thought she wanted to talk to her parents about it after the engagement ended, but now was the perfect opportunity. She gathered her strength and announced to her parents that she wanted to start a family business. Her statement shocked all family members. The Countess decided to ask her daughter about her intentions. She reminded Lilia that she had never been interested in family affairs before. Lilia thought that the family's doubts were understandable, for she kept repeating that she would marry Richard and be faithful to the role of the Marquise. The girl said that she understands that she has no experience in this field, is not as smart as her brother, does not have brilliant achievements like him. Lilia said that she was confident enough in her abilities and wanted to try her hand at this business because her heart now desires it. The parents, of course, were surprised by such a sincere desire of their daughter, but supported her in this decision. Violetta Baldwin smiled and said that she agreed that her daughter should try herself in this role. The woman added that it took a lot of time until Lilia herself wanted to do something, and experience and knowledge will always have time to accumulate. Suddenly, the Countess changed her tone and asked if her daughter was ready to take the matter seriously and be responsible for many workers. She sternly warned that you can't quit just because it's hard. The girl firmly and confidently replied that she was ready for this. A week later, Lady Lily's carriage drove up to another art gallery. The fact is that her father had addressed her the day before. He asked her to help with his case and find a good creator, as the art world is now stagnant. Lady Lily thought how glad she was that she had plucked up the courage to speak out and easily obtained the permission of the family. She approached the gallery, the front door opened, and a girl fell out of there, shouting with a demand to get out. Lady Baldwin shouted and asked what was going on here. The knights became alert. Francis even shielded the lady with his body. The unknown girl continued to kneel at the front door of the gallery and prayed that her painting would be looked at again. The girl promised to abandon her intentions if the gallery owners found her drawing worthy. Lilia suddenly realized that the same poor thing she had met at the entrance to her father's exhibition was sitting in front of the door. The girl asked to open the door and give her a chance because this is the last gallery she visits. Lilia wondered how long the poor man had been to the galleries, since she said it was the last one. She recalled that thanks to the reform of the Baldwin family to support the arts, there are about 10 galleries in this city alone. The unknown girl had a shabby appearance. Next to her lay a wooden board wrapped in newspaper. All this indicated that she was an unrecognized artist who did not get a chance because of the prejudices of society. Lady Lily asked Malik if she approached the poor thing now, if it would look like almsgiving. He replied positively and warned the mistress that if she approached the girl, she would be her last hope. The lady replied that in this case, she would definitely do. In a second, she was near the entrance gallery. Lady Baldwin held out her hand to the poor thing and asked if she could get up. The girl stood up, shook herself off, and thanked Lady Lily for her help, and the mistress asked her to show her painting. The unrecognized artist was very embarrassed and said that for the first time someone himself expressed a desire to look at her works. She timidly handed her work to Lady Baldwin, saying that she still had very little experience in the visual arts. Lilia was delighted with what she saw and thought that this unrecognized artist could change the world. A moment later, the mistress asked the stranger her name and offered to sign a contract. The poor thing could not believe her ears, and Lady Lily clarified that she would like to buy the painting and book the next one. The girl was shocked and realized that this was a huge chance for her, but with regret, she said that this was the last picture. Lady Lily was perplexed, and the unrecognized artist explained that she was giving up painting as her family had large debts. She said that she was in a difficult situation and added with a smile that she also had a younger sister and a brother. The unrecognized artist explained that she has to work hard so that they do not starve. She clarified that she had no time to paint a picture, even if it was bought by the mistress under the contract. Lady Baldwin called Francis and Malik, asking them to bring a sponsorship form. Lady Lily asked the girl to wait a little, and after a while, she provided her with a temporary contract. Mrs. said that the contract is designed for 3 years. It provides for an advance. Lady Baldwin added that art is not born on the silk of a finger, so there will be no clear deadlines. She said that a workshop, canvases, and paints can be provided, but this requires an exclusive contract. The lady added that in this case, it is forbidden to fulfill other people's orders. The artist shouted a demand to stop. She asked why Lady Baldwin was offering an exclusive contract to an unknown creator because it was a great offer. The mistress replied that she saw a special talent and potential in the girl and realized that she deserved a good chance. The poor girl realized that she had never heard these words, although she had visited many galleries. She asked what would happen if she took the advance and ran away. Lady Baldwin replied that it was okay because the painting would remain with her. Suddenly Malik called out to them and said that the workshop was ready and they could pay a visit there. The girl was shocked by such a speed of change of events and asked what the name of the mistress was. Lady Lily replied that she apologized for forgetting to introduce herself and gave her name. The girl was shocked that the Count's daughter from the famous Baldwin family was talking to her. Lady Lily invited the discouraged artist to discuss the details of the deal on the way to the studio. A week later, Karkan received a note saying that Lilia wanted to meet to give him his frock coat. The young duke breathed a sigh of relief that the girl had contacted him after all, because he had drunk a lot and behaved ugly the last time they met. The guy decided that this time he would look dignified in the eyes of the lady and asked the assistant if his outfit was too open. Tessian laughed and replied that, in the first place, this outfit suits the master very well, and in the second place, it adds to his charm. The personal assistant of Mr. Karhan said that these clothes emphasize the virtues and overall attractiveness of his master. He added that the master needs to dress like this more often to stand out, especially since Lady Baldwin will like such an image. The young duke replied that in that case he agreed, and added that he had been feeling someone's prickly gaze on him lately. Unknown, who was secretly following Karkan, speculated that the object of surveillance was considered a bloodthirsty killer from the battlefield. It was common knowledge that Mr. Avanthion ruthlessly destroyed anyone who approached him. However, now there are rumors that his temper has softened, which means that perhaps the unknown will be able to make useful acquaintances. After a while, as if by chance, he approached the young duke and said that he had not expected to meet him there. The stranger explained that he had noticed Mr. Avanthion and could not believe his eyes, so he decided to come up and say hello to make sure. He asked to sit down at the young duke's table and introduced himself as Alfred of Viscount Smith's family. The guy noted that he was sorry that he was not able to talk when meeting at the banquet. I noticed that Mr. Avanthion had a book in his hands about the basics of love relationships and thought that he had suspicious taste. The young man exclaimed enthusiastically that he did not know that the young duke also liked to read, and noted that this book was very entertaining. Karkan thought that for the first time he was meeting a person who immediately had an excellent first impression. He wondered if he would be friends with Alfred and decided to use the method that Lilia had recently taught. Mr. Avanthion concluded that then she would definitely praise him Lady Baldwin. When Alfred told something, Karkan simply repeated a word from his speech with a questioning intonation. Soon, the young man got tired and freaked out that he had not been able to start a conversation to find out information from the young duke. Alfred apologized for interrupting the reading of Mr. Avanthion. In upset feelings, the guy ran away, and Karkan was left in complete bewilderment because he did not understand what he had done wrong. A few minutes later, Lady Baldwin came up to Mr. Avanthion's table. He jumped up from his seat and noted that they had not seen or talked for a long time. The girl explained that she was busy with work. She noticed that Karkan was finishing reading a textbook about relationships that she had given him earlier. Lilia said that the manual had a second volume, and the young duke replied that it was the first time he had heard of it. He suggested that they go to the bookstore together now, since they were talking about it. On the way to the store, there was an awkward silence between Lily and Karkan, which the young duke decided to break. He asked if he had accidentally offended Milady on the occasion when he had had too much alcohol. The girl assured that this meeting went well from beginning to end, and suggested that Karkan did not know how to drink alcohol at all. The young man replied that he did not even suspect that he was getting drunk so quickly. The girl warned him to be careful when he wanted to have a glass of something strong. Lilia asked if the guy who talked to him was a friend of Karkan. Mr. Avanthion noted that he met him for the first time, and was very surprised when an unfamiliar guy confidently approached him. The young duke stated that he had used the method taught by Lady Lily and kept up the conversation by asking clarifying questions. He said that it seemed to him that he had made a mistake somewhere, and something went wrong, because the interlocutor apologized sharply and ran away. The girl thought that Karhan still had problems with communication, so she needed to help him. Lily promised that she would train with the young duke later on. The guy suggested that the girl with her communication skills had many friends, but she replied that she had no friends at all. Lilia clarified that she had friends as a child, but when she grew up, she realized that they were friends with her only because of money. The girl said that after learning the truth, she distanced herself from fake friends, so there was no one left around whom she could consider her friend. She added that when she became an adult, confident and straightforward, she stopped feeling the need to meet new friends. Lilia wondered if her relationship with Karkan could be called friendly, even though they were united by one goal. The girl thought that she and Karkan were like-minded and communicated without any pretense. Their relationship could be called friendship. Suddenly, Lilia happily declared that Karkan was her only friend, but she saw confusion and shock on the guy's face. She realized that she shouldn't have said it out loud, and added that this confession should not make the guy feel obligated. The girl asked herself if they could remain good friends if they were careful and kept their distance. Mr. Avanthion thought it was incredibly pleasant that Lady Baldwin appreciated and trusted him so much that she called him a friend. However, for some reason at this moment, Karkan's heart felt heavy. When a couple of fake lovers entered the bookstore, they did not find a seller in their place. Lilia and Karkan agreed to split up and look for him. Passing by the shelves with books, the girl thought that during her absence, many new folios from different publishing houses appeared here. She noticed a shelf with books on business management, decided to take a few for herself since she was in a bookstore. However, the shelf with the necessary tomes was high, Lily could not reach. Suddenly, the back of her head touched Karkan's chest. He helped Lilia get the necessary books. Lilia's heart was pounding like crazy. She could barely find the strength to pull herself together and squeeze out words of gratitude. Karkan asked if he had taken out the book he needed. Lilia mentally answered in the negative, but answered aloud that it was exactly the same one. She told him that she had chosen everything she wanted, so she would go to the checkout. Leaving the store, Lilia found that the street was enveloped in evening twilight. Karkan invited her to have dinner together. The girl rejected the offer, saying that it was time for her to go home. Then the guy said that he would see her off. She replied that it was not worth it, because the carriage in which she had arrived was very close. Then asked Francis to bring one thing. Lily handed Mr. Evantillon his frock coat and told him that she had a gift. The girl explained that she saw these cufflinks when she was shopping at a gun store and thought they would suit Karkan. The young man replied that he was extremely grateful and would keep this gift as a valuable treasure. Lily angrily protested that these cufflinks were not for decoration, but to be worn with pleasure. Karkan replied that he would admire them for a while, then he would wear them. Lily agreed with a smile and said that it was really time for her to go. The young duke took her hand to help her get into the carriage. He said that he was glad to spend time with Lady Baldwin today. The girl reciprocated, but abruptly let go of her hand and left. Tessian chattered that he had prepared the carriage for the master, but the young duke did not hear him. He abruptly concluded that he needed to make a return gift, buy it right now, and go to the Baldwin residence. Thesion was shocked that the young duke wanted to buy a gift right now and asked to wait with his intention. In the carriage, Lilia sobbed, exclaiming that she was going crazy and did not understand what was happening because she sincerely wanted to remain Karkan's friend. She noted with regret that the excitement and trepidation did not subside next to Mr. Evantillon, and her heart was pounding violently. The carriage drove up to the Baldwin family county when the girl heard a noise and heard the voice of her former fiancé. He demanded to tell the girl that he was here. She opened the carriage door, but when she met Richard's eyes, she immediately regretted it. She could not believe that the scoundrel had appeared, although he had not been protruding for a long time, and assumed that he was up to something. The former lover asked the girl to go out for a while to talk. Francis and Malik tried to calm Mr. Richard. He was indignant that the commoners allowed themselves to treat him like this. Lady Baldwin concluded that the knights would not be able to deal with her enraged former fiancé and decided to intervene. She opened the door of the carriage and reminded Richard that she had asked him not to mess with her. The guy wanted to come closer to the carriage, but Francis stopped him and asked him not to approach even a step. Richard asked the girl not to be heartless and not to be angry because he wanted to tell interesting information about Mr. Evantillon. Richard said that Lilia's new lover was hiding something, and the girl asked why he was trying to slander Karkan. She advised her ex-fiancé to get out of sight, but he was indignant that he wanted to protect Lily and she was chasing him away. The girl angrily said that she did not want to listen to anything and ordered the coachman to go and began to close the door. Richard stopped her abruptly by hitting the wall of the carriage and shouted menacingly that he had not finished speaking. Lily was insanely frightened. Suddenly, a man's voice was heard, asking what was going on here. This formidable man turned out to be Mr. Evantillon, who grabbed the hand of Lilia's distraught ex-fiancé. Richard was glad to see Karhan and said that it was just in time, as they were discussing how he had ingratiated himself with Lady Baldwin. Lilia's ex-fiancé said that he knows that Karkan deceived the girl because he is not the real heir. The girl did not want to believe that the words of the vile and deceitful former lover could be true, because Karkan did not protest in any way. Richard grinned and said that it was enough to pretend and lead his naive bride by the nose. Lilia threw open the doors of the carriage and demanded to stop, and Richard replied with a grin that the girl probably did not understand what was happening. He clarified that Mr. Karkan deceived Lady Baldwin, fooled her with a promise to use the power that the title gives. Richard added that Karkan was only a puppet. The girl indignantly asked, "So what?" She asked the former chosen one if he really expected that this information would make Lilia return to him. She said she knew Richard was a scoundrel, but she didn't expect him to fall low enough to dig through other people's dirty laundry. Lilia told Karkan that they had something to discuss, and Richard asked the girl to stop and listen to him. At the entrance to the carriage, Lady Baldwin turned sharply and firmly declared that she had only one thing in common with her former fiancé. The girl said that she was still waiting for Richard's signed consent to break off the engagement and ordered the cab to leave. When the girl's carriage was out of sight, Richard said through clenched teeth that she would regret it. Karkan apologized for not reporting this information for a long time. He explained that he had been waiting for the right moment and was choosing his words, then added that in truth, his own family did not like him. The girl finally realized why she was so uncomfortable in the Avanthion family mansion. Then she smiled, assured the guy that everything was fine, and asked him to continue. He said that the family had long treated him badly, although when he was very young, he fell asleep in his mother's arms under her cradle. Karkan added that at some point, his mother's attitude towards him became cold. He did not understand what he had done wrong. The guy said that he tried to change the Duchess's attitude towards him, but the more he tried, the deeper the gap between them became. The young man sadly said that it had become impossible to change the situation because his father was too busy with work. He added that his older brother began to treat him in the same way as his mother. Karkan concluded that this is how a little boy named Karkan became a ghost in the Duke's family. He explained that for this reason he fled at the age of 14 to the battlefield. From that moment he took part in many battles. The young man said that last year he received an order from the family to take the place of his older brother and become the heir. Karkan explained that this place could not be empty, and during his brother's absence, he took the title. The guy said that he would refuse as soon as the true heir returned, so he was not trained, as it is customary to teach heirs. Karhan asked if he had disappointed Lilia much and said that he was really sorry. The girl thought, if you forget about emotions, it is probably better to terminate the contract and start looking for other ways to break off the engagement. She suggested that it would be much better because, as it turned out, it would be difficult for them to remain good friends. Then the girl decided to pretend that nothing had happened, and as if nothing had happened, she asked Mr. Avanthion why he had come. Karkan apologized and explained that he wanted to give a return gift because it seems to him that he is the only one who receives so many gifts. Lilia thought that she could not and did not want to pretend that nothing had happened. She wondered what would happen to Karkan if she left him now, because he would wait for the return of the true heir. The girl assumed that Karkan would again be banished by his family to distant lands on the battlefields. Lady Balden finally decided that she did not want Mr. Avanthion to suffer such a fate and offered to terminate the contract. The girl explained that she wanted to start all over again and conclude a cooperation agreement, not a deal. The young man asked what he meant, and Lily replied that she would help Karkan become the true heir of Avanthion. The guy protested that this was impossible because neither his family nor the Council of Elders, no one would support him. The girl confidently and joyfully stated that she herself would be a support for him and offered to look at herself from the outside. She recalled that Karkan has learned to give up what he doesn't need and smile when talking to strangers. The girl said that perhaps Karkan has not done anything significant yet, but everything is still ahead because he can change. The young man replied that this was not an easy task because he was not sure that he would be able to break the family shackles and go against his relatives. Lilia sat down closer, saying that everything would work out because they would be together. The guy was pleased to watch how the girl again stretched out her snow-white hand to him. He said that he agreed to become the true heir of the Duke, and Lily concluded that she was happy and took on the financial side of their plan. Karhan stated that he agreed to everything and asked Lady Balden to help and support him once again.